This is the XNC Podcast, your Xbox newscast, featuring Colteastwood and Mag, hosting industry interviews and gaming talk live on YouTube every Monday night at 5 p.m. on the West Coast, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. For all of you listening around the world, XNC Podcast is available on demand on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Welcome to the show. Join the chat, hit the like button, and let's get into this week's topics with the Xbox newscast. What's going on? How you guys doing? This is Colteastwood, and I'm solo for just a minute. Mag is on his way. We've had a crazy couple weeks. We both just got back from vacation. I just got back from LA, so I thought since Mag isn't here, I would take a minute to say hi to everybody. This is XC Podcast, episode 106. And I'm wearing the FanFest shirt because I just want to celebrate what happened 8 days ago as we saw the big Xbox showcase. And since he's not here, I just thought I would let you know that I don't know if you took a look at my video last week, but I kind of broke down what we got from the showcase and my experience there. And it was really, really great to see everybody. And if you're in the chat, and I'll get over to the chat as we do this, to meet people, like finally meet people, because this was a big showing and a big outing for people that came to FanFest compared to last year. So that's really exciting. Mag is just jumping in, so we'll jump on the show together, and he gets to skip the outro, which I think is going to be really great. Let me go to Mag and bring him in. I'm just really happy you're here. Hit the like button if you think we're going to have a good time. Today we're going to talk about the games and some of the updates that they're giving. Developers are talking about the games they showed, and there's even more surprises. We're going to get into that in just a second. Let me get Mag in here. He jumps in like this, and then we go like that. And then he's already here, and then I hit this. So it's so funny, as a solo producer behind like the tech parts, it's always like, I'm off camera, but yeah, we got it. There we go. In just a second, it'll update. Meg, how are you doing? You got to skip the outro.
Oh man,
how's life?
It's busy as always, as you would imagine. Like it's amazing. You can take a week off of everything, of work, of doing podcasting, whatever else, and you go somewhere on vacation, you come back, and the whole world's like, where were you? Why didn't you do everything that we don't do so we could just sit around and watch you do it? So, that's kind of how the world works, right? So, anyways, yeah. And then, of course, I tried to get onto a Discord or whatever, and then it's like, action needed, update your username. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Am I like, is Colteastwood going to change his name all of a sudden? Is the Mag going to change his name? No. Right? And so it's like doing all these things. So now, even when I'm doing the show right now, there's a huge yellow bar right at the very top that says, update required, update your username, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm not changing my name. So I'm going to keep pressing X until you go insane, Discord. Anyways, other than that, doing fantastic. Colt, chat, how's everybody doing? Everybody good? I didn't even realize we were live on the air. I sent you a message and I'm like, Discord is acting a fool right now. But anyways, doesn't matter. We're here. We got things to talk about. We got lots to catch up on. Let's get into it, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really super excited. I got home about 8 o'clock Pacific time, which is about the time that we're completely wrapped on the show. Our flight was delayed a couple hours, but I really want to, like, could I do the show? Could I grab somebody in your absence? But I really miss doing the show with you. I miss doing the show and seeing the chat. And speaking of the chat, shout out to, almost 500 people are here, but I want to read off the channel members and Patreons. And this has been updated. Hopefully I have, I should open this back up, but I want to shout out to those, the people who have joined the channel membership. And we've got a new tier, the super class, which I've got a new channel sponsor, which is Pushing Polygons, who's got a YouTube channel that covers gaming across multi-platforms. And I'll be teaching him everything I can think of to push his channel and learn things. And so he'll be at the top corner of the overlay as we talk about, getting into YouTube and figuring out what it's all about. But I want to give a shout out to Mark Caldwell, KY Bob, Assassin Lupa, Jazzy Snoop, Working Falon, Jason Luan, Moby, Lord Sin Eater, William Riggs, Farscape, Matt Houston, Chans Wolf, Matt Burns, William Lanza, KY Bob, Udani Kazada, Suicide King, Assassin Lupa, Robert Jackson, Dante Muda, Betamax, Derek, CMF, GAAS, Zenner White, Devaro2 Gaming, V Simco, Assassin, Poochie Dub, Hargit Chani, TK Chillin. I'm feeling so rusty. Taking 2 weeks off. Raiden Blade, Acute Perspective, True 77, Michael Ford, Red Source, Quinn's Harmony, Tatted Deer, Pesky Krogan, Pen Pineapple Pen, Trill Roberts, Macbound, Meat Puppet, Neil B, Xbox International Podcast, Red Wolf, Alan Adeltry, Gamer by Choice, Jedi Jigoli, Rippin, Highlander, Techno Caveman, some new people, Fire 71, That Blue Number, Kung Fu Hot Dog, Silent Cypher, and Uncle Chowder. Some of you have made it into the upper echelon of the veterans, but the people who've been here long enough to thank you so much. And what did I do? I lost the feed. We'll get it in a second. Hold on. Yeah, it's good.
Got it.
Gosh, yeah. I'll tell you what. I don't see it now, but while I was reading that, it overrode the camera, so it'll be back. I just love it. Yeah.
The feed is saying the same thing. It's just saying Colt is a fraud, Meg is a fraud. The same old that we get every single week. Yeah.
Yeah. We got the cameras. So I don't, Mag started off talking about the updates to Discord. Discord is doing this thing. If anybody thing is in front of my screen, the cameras are gone. And so ridiculous. But, thank you for being here while we were just gray boxes. We've got a lot to talk about. I don't even know where to start, but I wanted to start by briefly talking about the showcase. I was in LA watching it in person for the Big Fan Fest thing. You were in the Dominican Republic. How did you watch the show?
I was I'm not gonna lie to you. I missed it live by about an hour because I was with the kids and some other people that we met actually from North Carolina, and we were drinking at the pool and whatever. The kids were on the beach and we're having a blast, right? So I'm like, oh, you know what? We're gonna head back to the room, chill for a bit, and by chill I mean we were gonna take all the drinks from the pool bar and bring them back to the room. And I watched them on my tablet, right? So I had a 14-inch tablet, so I watched it on that, or whatever, 11-inch tablet, and I watched it out there. And I was on the back patio, my private pool, and watching the show, and it was great, smoking a big cigar, and it was fun. It was good. Obviously it wasn't the same as watching something on like a 70-inch TV or being there live in your case or whatever, but yeah, I got to watch it and it was good enough, right? So I watched it was fantastic. I enjoyed myself. It was like sitting down and watching a movie, you know what I mean? So, yeah. It could be quite a really long movie with a lot to talk about, and we have a lot to cover, but let's just get it out of the way since it's 8 days old. You and I just briefly talk about what they didn't get right for the reveal. I think some people might disagree with us in certain ways, but I'll start and say this really got me in a lot of trouble. I was on Jez and Rand's podcast on Friday, and I said, Sea of Thieves, Fallout 76, and what was the other one? Online.
Elder Scrolls Online. I said, I know they're important to a lot of people, but I feel like those would be really good for the extended showcase. And I think if you shorten the showcase by leaving them out, because I wouldn't ask them to put something in their place, but if you shorten the showcase 10 minutes by moving those to the extended, I think it might give people a better impression of the game showcase. And then my other problem, of course, there's some of the games that aren't my style that I was like, My other problem was Hellblade showed us far less than they've ever shown us in the hour when you thought they would show so much more. Meg, take it away. Tell me what you think they got wrong in the showcase before we talk about everything they got right.
Oh my God. I got to tell you, you hit the nail on the head with those three. I mean, we talked about that before we even went away, like when you went to LA and I went to the Dominican. We talked about the one things we didn't want. Yeah, I know, the opposite. Well, we were both heading south. I just kept going. You stopped in LA and I just kept going past South America. Anyways, the thing is that you're absolutely right. Those three games, we said, please don't show any more Elder Scrolls Online. Please don't show any more Sea of Thieves. I mean, I understand that there was a big collaboration. We knew about the collaboration. I talked about it a few weeks before. You talked about it before. Obviously, we both heard the same thing, that Monkey Island was going to be the thing. And so I even talked about it with Mooch on Crossfire. And he's like, how do you know? And I'm like, I know. So anyways, we were both right on that, but please. They could have saved that for the extended showcase. The other thing is that, of course, on top of all that, what the hell was the other one? Elder Scrolls, Sea of Thieves, and
Fallout 76.
Fallout 76. Excuse me.
Yeah.
They just should have kept that for the extended showcase. I'm surprised at this point. I even made a joke about it. I'm like, let's see another update on Minecraft. Why don't we? Right. So, but anyways, you're right. You should have shortened the show by about 10 minutes. Got rid of those three things. The only bone of contention that I had. And the thing is, when I look at the show overall as a show, it was excellent because it was entertaining. My only bone of contention is, like, it was entertaining. It was fun to watch. I'm like, ooh, that looks nice. Or, ooh, that sounds cool. And I have to say sounds cool because you don't know what it is yet. Like, for example, like South of Midnight, and the other one was Clock. I keep saying Clockwork Orange for Christ's sake. Clockwork.
Same.
Yeah, we're going to go for a couple of drinks of milk and some in and out. We are. Anyways, I'm just Clockwork Revolution and South of Midnight. We have an idea of what they are. Well, at least we have an idea what Clockwork Revolution is probably going to be like your BioShock kind of thing, right? Because they mentioned that before. So it sounds like it's going to be a first-person sort of whatever. South of Midnight, no clue. It just showed a dude playing a guitar, a rat running up his leg, and I'm like, okay. And it's got that Miles Morales kind of.
It was like, a possum.
Frame. Yeah, okay, there was a possum, awesome possum, and then there was the weird frame rate like Miles Morales, the movies.
Yeah. Like, the ontos, like the stop animation. Yeah.
Yeah, like the electric boogaloo look from like the 80s breakdancing. So I was like, okay. And then the thing is, my only bone of contention was no release year. Never mind date, which is fine. Right. I get it. But the thing is, when you can see when people say, oh, Mega could still come out, next year or whatever. And I'm like, yeah.
Maybe.
But
probably not.
But Hellblade, they gave a year at least, right? So I'm saying if you compare it to Hellblade,
let's talk about Hellblade. Okay. Let's talk about Hellblade so we can get that criticism out of the way, because I think it's way due. How are you feeling about that Hellblade reveal?
Nothing. I feel nothing. Like literally nothing. Like my black heart was just like, meh. It was just like whatever. I'm just like, it's the same. I almost said some horrible words right there. I'll save it for somebody else's show. It's the same thing. Remember we joked about it, and I joked about it. I'm like, please don't show me another trailer of Senua screaming at my face.
Yeah, I think that's what you said the week before we left.
And it was kind of funny because we've had like 3 reveal trailers in a row where she looks at the screen and with her weird teeth and just goes, and I'm like, okay.
I'm like, what do you do in this game? Right. Yeah, let me pose this question for you.
Yes, okay.
I feel like, why show Hellblade if you weren't going to show us anything substantial? But my question is for you, Mag. What if Hellblade was a complete no-show? What would the narrative be?
Oh, the narrative would have been even worse. So hey, Joe Blow, I see what you wrote. Scumbag. Anyways, sorry. He said we were away on vacation. I'm sorry. We couldn't cater to your every need, sir.
Is he upset that we missed the show? Because
no. He's saying, oh, let's talk about 2-week-old news, which is not even 2 weeks, by the way. It's 8 days.
Eight days. Yeah.
Get a calendar, Joe Blow. Anyways, I'm only.
Joe Blow's my best friend. Is there really is a Joe Blow? You know what?
It's probably Rand with a burner account.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's Rand going, I'm going to get those 2 sons of guns.
Yeah, Rand had the express privilege of doing 19 shows that week because he was at home and didn't go. But
by the way, I don't know why Rand all of a sudden sounds like George Lucas, but he does in my mind. It's like, well, what we're going to do in this next sequel is we're going to do this. Anyways, that's Rand is now George Lucas, everybody. Anyways, here's the thing. If they didn't say anything at all, it's like that double-edged sword, right? No pun intended with that game. It's that if you don't say anything or whatever, well, first of all, they have to say something. But if they don't say anything at all, everybody's going to be like, oh, that's it. Jason Schreier's in the bushes. He's talking to devs. They're in trouble.
I saw him several times in L.A.
You did? Did you drop
several times, yeah. Good old Jason Schreier. I wanted to get a selfie with him, but I thought, it's kind of disrespectful because I'd be kind of doing it like, hey, buddy. And not really because I'm a massive fan or anything. And then, I don't know, all video game discourse aside, I couldn't bring myself to just be trollish in real life. I saved that for the internet. Kung Fu Hot Dog, Thank you so much for the 10-pound super. He says, Colt Mag.
Love the name.
I know, I love it. He says, Aaron promised us no cinematic video game trailers, and then we got Fable, Project Midnight, which looked like doggy doo and told us nothing. Star Wars Outlaws looks pretty good, and Forza has my money. I want to talk about Fable. Yes. And yes, I'm sorry, the news is a week old, but we're going to be putting a current this week spin on everything because stuff has developed along the way. I want to talk about that Fable trailer because, Meg,
yes,
I was hoping Fable would be there, and then I kind of got a clue from one of the marketing guys, and then it was there, and I had a high bar for what Playground Games would make visually, and they put it above my camera crop. Like it was, it looks really nice. It doesn't look like, I thought they were going to take a double step above what the last Fables did, or like Fable Legends, or I can't say Fable 3 because that's like, a 12-year-old game, but I expected a step up, and they took several steps visually.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
really excited about how it looks, but very, very little gameplay, something like 15 seconds total.
You know what? You could tell. I mean, you see people arguing on Twitter all week about, and on YouTube or whatever else, and everybody's arguing. It's like, that was gameplay. That wasn't gameplay. This was gameplay. That wasn't gameplay. The chicken was gameplay. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, first of all, go do something else with your life if this is what you're fighting about all day. But the second thing is, you could kind of get a vibe of what was gameplay and what wasn't. Like when you see a moment that didn't look like it was like the character wasn't moving in a cinematic fashion, you could tell was gameplay. Like for example, when she fired that like fireball sort of thingy, like in that little path in the forest, you could clearly tell that was gameplay because the way that it was done intentionally, and then her arm went back down by her side, right, and then she just kind of stood there for just a second. That wouldn't happen in a cinematic. In a cinematic, there would be some flair to it. There'd be a throw, and then she'd be still moving because your character wouldn't stop. Like if you're watching a Pixar movie, for example, the character doesn't do this and then just like stand there, right?
Yeah.
The character is constantly moving because it's animated, right? So you could tell same thing with the chicken kicking. Like when she kicked the chicken, as soon as she kicked the chicken, she just stood there and watched it go, and you could be like, all right, that. You could almost guarantee that was gameplay at that point, right? But anyways, the point is, Playground said it, I think it was 2 years ago now. They said that they want to be the new Rockstar, right? And not the Rockstars and like Rockstars. I mean like the actual dev Rockstars. They want to be like on that level of development, right? And they say we want to be the new Rockstar. They're going to do that. There's no question in my mind. Like, I'm not worried about Fable at all. There's no doom and gloom in my mind about that game at all. It's just a matter of when it's coming, right? So for me, it's just that. So it looks like a mixture of like all these different wonderful games. Like it's got that scope and scale of like that God of War kind of vibe, like with the giant and the big, slamming his hand and doing all that kind of stuff. So you kind of have that God of War sort of scale, where Kratos is like this big and he's fighting like, a Hydra that's like 800,000 times his size, and you know what I mean.
You don't get that anymore. So, like they don't do those larger than life enemies much anymore in games.
Love
it's pretty rare.
That stuff. I think the last time we saw it, unless you help me out here, maybe Shadow of the Colossus or God of War, were the last time we saw those kind of like grand scale things where like your character's like this, and then you're dealing with like this giant whatever. Anyways, game looks great, looks wonderful. Once again though, as it ended, it said play it day one on Game Pass, and then I'm like, and then I'm waiting, and then nothing. And then I'm like, okay, so we don't even have a release year. And like I said, if you buffer it up against Senua's Saga at least had the name, had the number 2024 next to it, right?
Yeah,
so you're like, all right, that's the golden standard for what's releasing. It's gonna be 2024. But the fact that like South of Midnight, Fable, and Clockwork Revolution didn't even have a release year leads me to believe that we're talking 2025 at this point. However, it could just be at the same time. Hold on. Now, before the chat rips my face off, let's maybe put out the possibility that maybe Microsoft is like, let's not give any releases and promises that we can't keep in case, things happen or like they hit
That's
a
what
roadblock.
I'd be doing.
Right?
That's what I do.
So maybe 2024 is still the year that these games are coming, but they don't want to say it because they don't want to shoot themselves in the foot like they did last year with the 12-month baloney, right? Remember that? These games are all coming within 12 months, and only one did, right? So
now, Matt Booty said on stage post-show, only for the 500-plus people that were at the event last Sunday, he said something about getting excited about the next 18 months or something. And I think that was his way of saying that we're pushing these games out for the next year or so. And I agree with you, Mag. In this total climate, in this current climate, I wouldn't be giving release years unless you're absolutely certain. What we do know from some of the information that's been spoken about Avowed, which we'll get into in a minute, and some of these other games, that it sounds like Xbox is planning some games for 2024, and they haven't talked about 2025. So I think Fable is probably a holiday 25 or maybe earlier, but it's looking really, really nice. So one of the things I want to talk about is there is a controversy about the look of the character. And so I wanted to help people understand that if you play this new Fable game, the chances are very, very high, like 99%, that you'll be able to choose to start as a young child, boy or a girl. And the way that the all three of the Fable games have started where you say that it says, "Where does your adventure begin?" Or there's a famous quote from Fable 2, where you pick a boy or a girl and you start as a young child, and then something happens and you learn powers, and then it fast forwards to where you're older and you grow up in the game. So, Meg, I would assume that this female character that people are not excited about is only one of two choices. Did you see the actress picture that Solid Rev shared on social media? It was a picture of the actress that is portraying Fable female character.
Yes. Now the thing is, there's no character creation, right? I mean, it's you pick a one of the two there. Okay, that's fine. Could it be? Now I'm just hear me out here. Hear me out, folks. Could it be that looks and body type and attitude and whatever character, like any kind of character, could be affected by the decisions you make, assuming that we're doing like that life cycle like they've done in the other Fable games where you start young and then you get older into a teen and then into your 20s and into your 30s, whatever, right? And you're living the life of this character. Could it be even possible? Let's just daydream about this. How wild would it be if the character's actual appearance changes, just like in real life, depending on your experiences as you're growing up and the things that happen to you along the way? Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, let's say if you were active all the time or whatever, and your character maybe was a little bit tighter or whatever, or you didn't do much as the character when you were younger, you just kind of hung around and that, you were kind of a little bit bigger or whatever, and maybe, hey man, I'm just saying, right? And maybe you had like you
eat too many sweet rolls and your character's like looks like me.
Like San Andreas. Remember San Andreas?
You get fat CJ. I love it.
Yeah, like the Cluck Bell or whatever the hell it was called. And then you Cluck and Bell, and you got like really big or whatever. Hey, you never know. If they did that 15 years ago or 16 years ago, however many years it's been since San Andreas, why couldn't they do a far more advanced version of such a thing? And then your character, even down to the teeth, could change depending on, let's say, your lot in life. Like let's say, for example, you had a better I don't want to say the word better, but let's say a more financially stable upbringing in the game, and you got clean white teeth. But let's say you grew up as a peasant in the game and you had yellow and brown teeth, right? Just like, like when you watch like a medieval movie, they're like, "That's my fish, it is," and they've got like 4 brown teeth, you know what I mean, and whatever. But you see the royalty, they all got clean teeth. Hey man, you never know. I'm just saying, how crazy would that be if indeed that was the case? She looked rough. I'll give her that. Like she looked like pretty beat up, and I'm like, well, she looks like the kind of person you would find like in a 13th century village somewhere. It's not like they were sitting there with their hair done up and like, they got their teeth whitened at the dentist and like, you know what I mean? And they had form-fitting Instagram clothes on. I mean, if you went to a village in the 13th century in the middle of the woods.
This is not a new thing. They took creative license with the base foundation of a character. They did the same thing with Aloy. I started my podcast when Horizon Forbidden West was brand new and people were making fun of Aloy, and I told my moderators, I'm like, I won't allow people to be disrespectful to a female character or an actress that played them, so please try and keep that somewhat civil. But they did take some creative license. The actress that portrays the Fable girl doesn't have freckles, and I don't know. But I also can't rule out that you could make your own character. I have no idea what they're going to do with a wholly rebooted Fable.
We don't know.
I would assume they would keep it true to the trilogy. And Mav in the chat said, "Oh my gosh, it was back here." He says, depending on what spells and actions you took, your character appearance changed as they grew up. And he said they had done that before in Fable, Mag, where your character changed based on what type of person they were. And I played through Fable 3 this year, and I didn't get. Oh, I had a scar. So yeah, things were really limited back then. But so here's the other thing I wanted to talk about is critics this week have really been talking about how Xbox is masquerading this as in-game footage, and developers and Phil Spencer. I don't know if I have the quote, but Phil Spencer said to one of the reporters, "Why do you think that's not gameplay?" And then a developer for Playground Games spoke up on Twitter and said that was in-game gameplay we captured, just very short and with a different cinematic camera angle.
Sure.
I mean, they showed more combat for Fable than they did for Hellblade.
Which is kind of funny. Actually, you know what's funny? Now that you mentioned Hellblade again, it was something I wanted to say about 10 minutes ago, but I didn't. It slipped my mind. I was a little bit. I think in my mind, I was sort of envisioning that maybe Hellblade 2 would be a different style of game. In my mind, and like I said, maybe that was me just doing the wrong thing. And I was starting to think that maybe this is going to be like an Assassin's Creed Valhalla kind of thing. Open world, you're running around, you're doing things, you're killing people, you're doing whatever, right? And then I watched that, whatever it was, at this reveal or whatever, at the game show. And I'm sitting there going, I think this is just going to be the same as the first one, just better.
Okay.
Because you saw her walking, right?
Yeah.
So you saw her walking, and then she's looking around, and then of course all the voices start talking, and then I kind of was like, I had this sort of sinking feeling, not like in a negative way, but I was just like, damn it, I guess I was wrong, right? Because I'm like, maybe it really is just the same, not the same, but like the same-ish sort of vibe to it, where you're just sort of walking around and it's more of an experience as opposed to a full-blown, like, let's say, action adventure game or an action RPG or anything like that. Because like I said, I was building that up in my mind, maybe incorrectly, but we still don't even know what the game is either, right?
Right.
Because
after
go back and watch all the reveals, Colt. If you watch every single one of those trailers, okay, so you went back and you watch every single one of those trailers, I still don't know what the hell you're doing. Right. So, like, I mean,
well, here's the cool thing about Fable is I was worried that they would just barely take it a step beyond the old Fables and try to stay true on the first run and really capture every Fable fan. But it looks like they are pushing it into a modern game. This is another theme we're going to be talking about today, which goes beyond just talking about the showcase, about how Xbox is actually pushing true next generation. And that is a very difficult thing for the doubters to hear, because Fable is not just Fable 3.5 or Fable 4. It really feels like a true modern take you would expect in 2024 or 2025. I've got a couple supers. Some of them have to bounce back because they get into other subjects we're going to cover. But Brad Warfight, thank you so much for the Canadian $2.20. He says, welcome back. I should have saved this one. What did Todd say to you about 30 FPS? I'll talk about that in a little bit, but Mag, you heard the whole story about how Todd Howard reached out to me at the social media mixer at the Xbox showcase party and recognized me, which is really cool. But that was really cool. There's a deep discussion to talk about with Starfield, and it's like one of the biggest games of the generation. That's another hard thing for people to hear. Sith Lord says, welcome back, Colt. Glad you had a great trip, and thanks for the for doing Xbox 5, which I did with Cognito, Rand, Jez, and Miles. He says, I've been waiting for XNC. Love it. Hope you had a great Father's Day. Thank you. Meg, I hope you had a good Father's Day too, my brother.
I had, yes, happy Father's Day to you too, sir. Yes, I had a really busy one. Man, I cut the grass. I cut the field behind my house, which is like the size of a football field. I painted my back deck. I'd cleaned the gardens.
Wow, you really relaxed.
No kidding, right? And then the funny thing is, at the end of all that, I'm like, in my mind, I'm going, all right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to drink a bunch of beer in the sun. It was a beautiful day yesterday. By the time I finished all that stuff, I was so tired. I went inside, I ate, and I just sat in front of the TV and played video games instead. And I'm like, well, there you go. So it didn't get to happen. I didn't get to have the picturesque Father's Day on the back deck, drinking beer, doing whatever. But anyways, I did what I did. But listen, that whole thing with the sorry, were you going to read some more super chats?
I don't even know that whole thing. Yeah, I had a couple.
Sorry, Go ahead. Because you were talking about the whole thing with Cognito and Miles and all that.
Yeah. We had a really good show, but
I was going to get back to that,
but there's a lot to cover because that show is really about breaking down everything that we saw at the showcase. Red Wolf gifted a channel membership. Thank you so much, Red Wolf. He says, Starfield, I'd love to hear what both you are role-playing as and what character you want to build. A pirate, a bounty hunter, a stay-home space mom, etc. Meg, what kind of character are you going to build in Starfield? And we're going to talk about Starfield in depth in a little bit here.
An angry one. I'm right here. I don't have to do anything else. And by the way, the Sousa, you did miss me. I didn't actually lose it about Hellblade 2, but had concerns, and not concerns about the game, not concerns about the quality. I was just my concerns were about what the game actually is, and I'm starting to have a feeling that it's another walking experience, so to speak, with a little bit more, with bigger like set pieces, but I still think it's the same thing. And
that's
like I said, I think I'm building up. I think that's building it up wrong in my mind.
I think that's a legitimate concern. And think about this, chat, for a moment about Hellblade. Have they communicated to us that you'll do a lot of walking and listening to voices and doing puzzles, and then the combat is just more advanced? Because that's kind of the message they're communicating to us right now. And if you love, and why not, right? Because Senua's Sacrifice was an award-winning hit game from 20 people that made it. Now 100 people are making a game that is hopefully emulating that same feel, just advanced. And maybe that's not for you. Saying.
But I liked the first one. I got 1,000 out of 1,000 on the first one when it came to Xbox, because I never bought it for PlayStation. Even though half the chat calls me ponies, I see you. Sorry. Sorry. Red Wolf is he's just saying, answer my question before I get into that. What was the question? Again?
What kind of
character
pilot will you make? What kind of person in Starfield?
Red Wolf. I already told you, a screaming angry one. That's it. It's going to look like, didn't you see me on Twitter? Didn't you see what Colt did to me? It's going to look like me, be like me, whatever. And then, I don't know. That's pretty much what you're going to get.
Are you going to do the perk where you can like super punch everybody and have them fly off into the landscape? As for me, Red Wolf, I think as I always am in video games, I'm the clean and pure do-gooder who secretly and quietly strikes a few deals to make extra credits in the seedy underbelly, and then reports back to the good people and says, "Hey, what can I do for you? Do you guys need anything?" And I've got a fat wallet. That's kind of how I play.
I can't do that. You know what the thing is? I'm like Wolverine. I'm like the good guy, but the anti-hero. So like, don't upset me on the good side. Don't upset me on the bad side. You know what I mean? Like I will reluctantly do things for the good people, but always have that sort of watchful eye on them because I don't trust them. Like kind of like a corporation, and I'm like, it's kind of side-eyeing them. But I'll do good things. I'll never hurt people that innocent people or women or children or just innocent people or aliens or anything like that. I'll always be the nice guy. But I'm going to be Patrick Swayze from Roadhouse. I'm nice until it's time to not be nice. And then I'm going to be an evil son of a gun that's going to be ripping out throats, shooting people's faces off, punching your visor so that you slowly die like Schwarzenegger at the end of Total Recall when all the anti-gravity goes in his face and his face goes, ah! I'll do stuff like that to you. So don't upset me. I'll be super nice until it's time to not be nice. That's the kind of character I'm going to be.
I just got to say, we've got a little over 2 months. I want Starfield right now. I broke down the footage. I've watched it a million times already. Probably. I cannot. You know when people say I cannot wait? I will not wait. I will drive to Maryland.
What are you going to do, Colt?
I'll just drive to Maryland and hook up my controller to whatever console it connects to or whatever dev kit, and I'm just going to play it because I cannot. I will not wait. You cannot make me wait for Starfield. I'll put a poll in the chat. How bad? How many monitor lizards will you eat for the opportunity to play Starfield?
I have questions, though. I have questions for you.
Lay them on me, because I've got a couple of other questions to go. But what do you got here?
Okay, my questions are this: how do you think the game is going to How do you think the game is going to feel on the console? Are you going to be playing it? First of all, I'm going to ask you this: are you playing it on console? Or are you playing it on PC?
I'm going to play it. Oh, you just asked me a really important question.
It is an important question because a lot of people
very important.
This is the Xbox newscast, right? So a lot of the people tuning in here are playing. I would presume that a lot of these people are playing on Xbox. So how do you think the game is going to feel to you? Like if you're going to play, I'm assuming that even if you're going to play it on PC, you'll give it a shot on console just to get a feel for it.
All right, audience and chat. Let's see. We have a little over 900 people. This is a very important question. Now, my very first answer is the political one. I'll do this with my thumb. When Mag says this is the Xbox newscast, the PC version of an Xbox game is 100% Xbox. But I can play this, and according to a couple friends, My PC might be able to do it. Here's the thing. Oh, there's so much to say on this. I saw Starfield running at 30 frames on a 100-foot screen. And I've always been on the show telling people that you got to play a game at 60. It's so much better. But when he said he was using a sort of global illumination and that they're using per object motion blur, which Digital Foundry, we'll get into that in a little bit. We're already knee deep into the Starfield stuff. I thought to myself, I will totally play it just like I'm seeing it right there and be so happy. Now, I could try it on my PC and maybe it runs at 60. Maybe it drops 20 frames at a time. I don't know yet. But one of my friends was like, Cole, I think you should just play it on Xbox and never even try it on your PC. Because if you go there and it doesn't live up to your expectations, you're going to be mad that you can't get either or. That's where I'm sitting. Meg, is that too crazy of an answer?
I'm glad you said that. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up, and this didn't dawn on me until, I swear to God, this morning, because Monday's my day off, right? So I was home this morning. Kids went to school. I came home. I got that platinum on Sackboy. Holy crap. Was that ever difficult? Great. It's so great, but it was difficult. So now I've done that. I'm moving on to Jedi Survivor and Dead Island 2. So I'm playing Dead Island 2 with my wife right now. We're playing co-op in that. And then on the solo front, I'm playing Jedi Survivor. Now, I started the game this morning. So I picked performance mode, right? So I'm playing, whatever, doing its thing. And
I know where this is going.
No issues, right? So I played for about 2 hours. Then I started getting hungry. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn this off for a little bit. I'm going to go upstairs, make myself something to eat, just hang out for a bit, catch up on some YouTube stuff, some Twitter stuff. I'll go back down, play later on. So I turn it off, go upstairs, do my thing, go back downstairs, turn it on, and I'm playing for about, 5-10 minutes. And I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not, for once, I'm not being a drama queen. My eyes were hurting. Like I had like an eye ache, and I'm going, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, why am I getting
performance mode?
No, I'm playing, and I'm getting this headache, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, my eyes are hurting, and I'm like, man, this is like blurry. What the hell's going on? I press pause. I went down to the options menu. I go, wait a second. When I turned it off, it went back to fidelity mode on its own. And then I was like, holy crap. And it just dawned on me, and I'm like, if you're playing on PC like Starfield, that's where the Starfield red pill showed up in my head, and I'm like,
yeah.
If you play Starfield at 60, and then you're gonna go to let's say to Xbox, and you're gonna play it on 30, probably not a good idea, because I swear, and I'm not joking. Right. I'm dead serious. I'm not making up this story. This is not bull crap. It's not something I wrote down to for some narrative. This actually happened this morning. So It actually, and I went there, and I'm like, why the hell did it go back to fidelity mode? I swear the blur, like the motion blur and the movement and stuff was hurting my eyes. So what I did is I turned it back to performance, and bam, just like that, just fine again. It was like crystal clear. I had no issues. I'm like, okay, there we go. Now we're back into it.
I don't know. I had a problem with Jedi Survivor. It dropped so many frames so often, and the resolution was so degraded. It was one of those times, because I've always told people, like, I'll take the resolution hit, or I'll take the quality hit for performance. But with Jedi Survivor on Series X, you're not getting the best. You're not getting the best of both. You're not even getting a good amount of both. You get 60 frames sometimes, it drops. The resolution is atrocious. It's what they say, it runs as low as 720p on a Series X. Like, what the heck? But it's got real ray tracing in it. Yeah, Mag, I know. And when you go from 60 to 30, it's very, very jarring. If you go back to 60, it's a nice breath of fresh air. There's a whole bunch. I need to get into the technical part of why it's 30 in a minute here. Let me go back to Biffernaldi was saying the whole reason you were getting those Discord problems was because you can use your name and not have the numbers at the end if you change your name and do it officially.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Cord Wainer, by the way, is hilarious as always. He put in the chat, he says, he goes fidelity mode versus infidelity mode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Cord Wainer, you're still the best, man.
This is another thing we're going to talk about, and only on Ecstasy Podcast will you get a whole discussion about games that you love, but then, holy crap, what's going on with the hardware and what's the future hold. We're going to get into that as well. Silent Cypher gifted 5 channel memberships. He's also recently added to the channel veterans list that I read earlier. Thank you so much, Silent Cypher, for that. Those who have channel memberships, I think they just automatically activate and you have access to the special emojis under the emojis tab in the chat. And it's just ultimate power. Angry Hippie says, Colt, how do you feel about being left out of the Starfield petition? Let's talk about this supposed, I'm going to have to skip around a little bit here, but there was a Starfield petition. I'm going to start off this conversation by saying I'm like 90% sure in my heart of hearts, and I tried to do some scouring and stalking on Facebook to find out if this person was really... I'll cut to the chase. I think this petition was created by an Xbox fan trying to make the PlayStation guys look really, really foolish. The way it was written, and I know you've dug into this as well a little bit, but let me read some of the quotes that they said. It says, quote, Starfield is only available on Xbox. It limits the amount of players and stifles the amount PlayStation has. Microsoft could charge higher prices because they don't have competition. Not only the arrogant, annoying, but since the showcase, Xbox fans have been irritating, and they are purposely spreading Starfield news to make us PlayStation owners upset. Now, this is all funny because it really tags how PlayStation only fans or PlayStation diehards talk, but just the way it's so on the nose, it makes me think that some guy made this to make them look foolish. He says, if it releases on Xbox, it's a bad game. If it releases on PlayStation, it's a good game, he says. This is a guy named Benjamin Dickey, which probably doesn't really exist. Unless you want to see Starfield fail and be the buggiest ever, give it to PlayStation. And there's some other things, but they had 1,000 signatures and people were signing up for the express ability to comment on the petition and make fun of this petition to bring Starfield to PlayStation 5. What are your thoughts on this, Mag? We'll only talk about it for a second because it's lunacy.
No, it's not. It's not a thing. There might be a couple of people out there who might be saying things like that, but I think for the most part, I think a lot of people are pretty sensible when something's not coming. Like, I don't see any petitions out there for Final Fantasy 16 coming to Xbox. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you want to play the game, go play it on PlayStation. Go buy a PS5 and go play it there. It's plain and simple. It's just the same as anything else, man. Like, if you want a Big Mac, go to McDonald's. If you want a Whopper with cheese, go to Burger King. You know what I mean? That's like sitting in McDonald's and going, "Hi, welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order, please?" Yeah, can I have a Whopper with cheese? Sorry, sir, we don't sell Whoppers with cheese. Well, I'm starting a petition. We're gonna get Whoppers with cheese in McDonald's.
Do petitions actually work?
No, they don't work, dude. Go to Burger King if you want to do that. If you want to play Starfield, go to the Xbox ecosystem. Never mind, you don't have to go to an Xbox. You could go on anything that supports the Xbox ecosystem. Go play it there. I'm sure everybody on Earth has well, not everybody, but almost everybody on Earth has a cell phone that's capable, a tablet, a laptop, a PC, or whatever. And you know what I mean? Play it there. Or an Xbox itself. Play it there.
For $10, you could stream the opening of Starfield for an hour to your PC if it wasn't capable, and then go, I think I want to do this, and then go buy the game. Or did you know that Todd Howard said he's mostly been playing Starfield on his Xbox Series S.
Okay.
So I was in this media briefing after the showcase, and there's like 40 people in there and news cameras, and Todd Howard said, I don't want to get too much into the Howard household, but down in the basement I have the 4K TV and the Xbox Series X and all that set up with the home theater system. And he goes, my teenagers use that all the time, like they're always on that. He goes, when I need to be testing a game, I have to do that upstairs where the Series S is. So he goes, by default, I've been playing Starfield on the Series S the most. I talked to someone who was testing the game around Christmas time that said they were playing most of their testing on the Series S, and they said, quote, they were surprised that it was running at frame rate. And I'm like, at frame rate? What does that mean, at frame rate? But of course, 6 months ago, we didn't know if Starfield would have a performance mode. So let's talk a little bit about the technobabble behind Starfield. And thanks to Digital Foundry's amazing 45-minute breakdown that explains why global illumination is so taxing on the hardware and why all of the little sandwiches and cups and everything are so taxing on the processor that the game cannot run at 60.
I have a thing about that though.
Interview me.
The arbiter. I had a thing about that. Now I heard another podcast I was listening to earlier this week or on the weekend, and they were talking about is that if, and it's just a question. It's just a question, and it's a question I'd like to know because I'm not a tech guy. If you were to remove all the arbitrary stuff, like for example, the fact that I can stack up 100 sandwiches in my bedroom on the ship, would that actually free up something to be able to run the game at a better frame rate? Or for example, like maybe sort of narrow the focus of what's going on and, you know what I mean? Put like a more of a narrative into it, like a Mass Effect, as opposed to walking around with like a laser cutter, you know what I mean? Mining ore from a rock for 6 hours.
Right. Like you could remove all of the little items. Let me give you an example. No Man's Sky does many things. Like you can pick up all these different items and resources in the world, and then you can build with those just like you can in Fallout 4 and Starfield. The difference is, Mag, is that those items are purely a static image in the menu. So when you pick up sodium, it's just an icon that is one icon for every piece of sodium you'll ever find or ever pick up. It's an icon in the menu, a JPEG thumbnail. In Starfield, the sandwiches and all the little pieces of everything, you can pick them up and float them. Now, you could take those out, but that is just part of the puzzle of what Bethesda games do in Creation Engine 2 that make the keyword being persistence. When you kill an enemy, that body will lay there for the entirety of your playthrough until you've lifted it up and thrown it out of your sight. You could come back to that shack in the middle of planet Voltron, and that guy's body, if you stripped his clothes, will be sitting there, laying there in his underwear going,
well, they call
that's very taxing.
They call it the Bethesda charm of being able to like do arbitrary things like, let me pick up this cup and move it over here and do this and do this and do that. And a lot of people like to tinker with that stuff. And it's kind of fun and it's kind of cute. But I'm just saying, if you were to say, all right, guys, let's just calm down here, scale it back a bit, be able to let's narrow the focus of this a little bit, like a Mass Effect. Even though Mass Effect is monstrous, they still narrowed it down. And amazing, but they still narrowed it down into a way that it was more of a narrative focus. Like, for example, I still am struggling to understand what the hell the game is about. Like, I understand, I get the gist of it, but I'm still like, oh my God, there's so much stuff. It's not.
I mean, I can help you out. I can help you out on that. Like, if you want to strip away the gun customization, the ship customization, the base building, then and take all that completely out of the game and basically make it like No Man's Sky. Well, No Man's Sky lets you do that, right? But if you take out those persistent items and just make it an exploratory shooter, you're going to lose a lot of the ownership and interactivity and immersion that comes with those games.
Yeah, because that's not the vision of that's the vision of the game. I get it. That's their vision. And that's like telling a filmmaker what to do. Like, you don't tell the filmmaker what to do. They're putting something on the screen for you. Right, and then it's something that's their vision, not yours. And whether you choose to experience that is entirely up to the consumer, right? So I get that. Like, for example, I'm going to play Starfield at some point, right? When I get around to it, because I still like I'm the kind of guy that I get through my backlogs. Why do you think I started Jedi Survivor at the end of June? Right? The FOMO is over with at this point with me. I'll wait. Yeah. I didn't buy Diablo 4. When I'm finished with those other games, I will buy Diablo 4. Then when I'm done with that or whatever, then I will move on to the next one. So anyways, the point is that when I play Starfield, for example, and this is me, right? And maybe some people in the chat might feel the same. I'm not going to sit there and mine ore and iron out of a rock. I'm not going to build a base. I'm not going to build ships into giant genitals like some people are already talking about what they're going to be doing, right? I'm not interested in that stuff.
Sure.
I don't want to sit there for 17
I've heard
hours.
I've heard that too.
But there are people like for example, I've like Jez, for example, Jez Corden. He's excited that he'd be able to tinker with building your ship, building your base, doing all kinds of cool things. The guy put like 1,000 hours or whatever into like Monster Hunter. I can't imagine doing that. But like some people are, everybody's tastes are different. Anyways, the point is that some people be interested. Like I know you played, what the hell is that game? Grounded. You played Grounded with your kids, right? You loved it. You build your base, you build your home. I couldn't do it. And the funny thing is, it's not that I can't do it. I am very capable of doing it. I just didn't want to.
Of course. I never liked building games or survival games, ever.
Right.
But when I played Fallout 4 and Todd Howard's like, you can build these and it just works. It just works, right? And it does. Right. It does work really well. Yeah. I love how people always use Todd's quote, it just works, when they want to bash Starfield. It's like, you realize you're quoting him showing you something that 100% just works. The building's amazing. And in 2015, I wanted nothing to do with building. I didn't want to play games where you build. I was not interested. And I got in there and I dolled up Red Rocket, like just over the bridge in the opening of the game. Like I couldn't stop. I would be out carrying things that were in my backpack so I could build some cool stuff at my base. Now, when Grounded came out, I was building like crazy, and it was half the enjoyment of the game. Shout out to over 1,100 people. Thank you so much for being here. Meg and I have a lot to cover about the games shown at the showcase 8 days ago. We're breaking down what critics and devs and experts are saying about those games right now. Hit the like button. I haven't said that yet. Hit the like button if you're having a good time. Meg and I are just trying to find our way in the dark as we've been away for a couple weeks. Thank you so much for being here. Also, the show is available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. And shout out to Pushing Polygons, a YouTube channel. I will have their link to the channel in the description later on. But thank you so much for being here. Yes, the building thing, Meg, I get you. That's the thing about Bethesda games is you really do almost get to do whatever you want. You can make character however you want. You can be whatever type of character you want to be. If you want to fly off and do zero main quests and collect and build an amazing outpost, you can do that. If you want to just sit in the spaceport, blow up ships and bring the parts back and build an ultimate juggernaut, looks like Optimus Prime, you can do that. And you started off this conversation saying, what if they strip some of those things away to get 60? And you put the nail on the head when you said, it's not up to us to limit what the developers want in their vision.
Well, they can do whatever they want.
But we are supposed to be holding on to the world's most powerful console. If this game came to PlayStation via that petition, it would well, of course, it'd run at 30 frames. I don't even have to say it. But we are running into an era where a lot of games being shown at the Summer Game Fest and the Xbox showing and even PlayStation Showcase were running at 30 frames on their reveal. And it starts to make you wonder, are we running out of room? We're going to talk about mid-gen consoles in a minute. Mag, I'm all over the board. Let me read a couple questions.
Hey, man, we're just doing our thing.
We're doing our thing. Yeah, I left out the part.
RTX Spidey from India, welcome.
Joining. Yes, welcome. That's awesome. That is awesome. Angry Hippie said, like, how do you feel about being left out of that Starfield petition? They called out a couple prominent YouTubers, and my name wasn't brought up. And yes, I felt I cried a little bit. Drawn TJ with a $5 says, hi, Colt Mag. Hi, chat. Everyone, please hit the like button. And Starfield, Fable, and Forza, and Avowed all look amazing. I want to talk about Avowed 2. We've got updates for that. I'm super excited. MacBound, who's been a channel member for 13 months, says, I like turtles and Fable. And as he quotes Dealer's classic meme, he says, Mag, where's the tan? Because you look like Casper. I saw a video of Mag.
It's the light. It's the light. Like, I have these lights. It's the what the hell are they called? Not fluorescent. What the hell's the name of them?
Incandescent?
Bloody hell. Yeah. You know the ones. They're super, super bright. Like, these things are like blinding because it's so I look as pale as a ghost. But trust me, if you see me in person, I'm actually practically brown. When I went to work I know, like, dude, I look as white as a ghost. But when I went to work, I walked in the front office and I'm like, hey guys, what's going on? And give me an update on the week. And they're like, whoa. Like, they say that right away, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I got a lot of sun. And I'm peeling like a snake right now. So, like, trust me, I am a golden brown. But like I said, this lighting makes me look like Casper. So, yes, risk it. I saw you. Hi, how you doing, buddy? Sorry, carry on.
And the great thing about this lighting was, like, last year I made a video, and we went out for a long walk, and I got totally sunburned. I was so red. And I turned on the camera, and I opened my video and said, yes, I got some sun this week. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? And I looked back at my video and I did not look red at all with the studio lights on. It's like, oh, hey, that's great. I saw a video of Mag in a in a bar that was in a pool, waist high water, holding drinks, hanging out, getting tanned, it was great.
Dude, I was like I said, I'm burnt so bad all up here and like everything everywhere else that I am literally peeled. Like I can go like this. It's like dandruff. I'm like just like chunks of skin are just coming right off. And like I said, I am
PlayStation
brown.
fans off your skin. It's like,
well, like I said, look at how bright these lights are in here, right? So it's just shining off of this godlike skin of mine. I can't help it if I look like a Roman sculpture in Rome, standing there like on Mount Olympus. Sorry, that was two different things. That was Rome. And Greece,
I was just gonna give a praise to you, but you just God praised yourself, so now I'm taking it away. Welcome to the channel membership, early access game vet. Man, we got the biggest egos on YouTube, and we gotta flaunt them, right? I said on the tweet out for the show, I said 2 of the oldest and sexiest podcasters this side of the latitude or whatever, because you and I are whatever on the globe. The Earth is round. It's
actually flew. It's funny. I actually flew over your home turf. Because when I was on the flight, I had in the back of the chair, they had this big computer screen. I had this brand new plane that they said they literally only used like a few times, and it was a state-of-the-art plane. Dude, it was amazing. Okay, just to give you an idea how big
this thing's never been in the air before. Enjoy, it's brand new.
It was 9 seats across. That's how big this plane was, right?
What?
And it actually, dude, it had lounges. Like you walk and there was like a lounge with like furniture, and I'm like, what is this? And even like the are you allowed to call them stewardesses anymore, or am I going to get canceled?
Flight attendants, yes.
Whatever the hell.
The old son of a gun.
Dudes. Yeah, there were no dudes. So anyways, the point is, the flight attendants. They even had touch screens on the walls where they did everything. So they walked over. They're like, oh, this. It was like the Enterprise. So there was like touch screens all over the plane. Anyways, the point is on the back of the chair. We all had the touch screen tablets on the back of every single chair of the whole plane, and it showed the flight path, right? So it's showing the plane in live whatever, and we were flying right over you. And I'm like, haha, I go, there's Colt. I go, honey, go to the bathroom and flush the toilet a bunch of times. See if anything lands on his house. But anyways,
that was you?
You got like a sprinkle of water and go, son of, what was that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, just a little mist. Dub gives a $5 super thanks, Dub. He says, shout out Ecstasy. Hope the art stuff of Abel's Playground. Oh, hype about the art style. Yes, I am too. Have wanted Xbox to use some scan tech like Hellblade more often in their IPs. Playground just looks so good. Like that was my favorite part, was that the critics are like, that ain't gameplay. That ain't real. And
it was.
You have been hearing this with Hellblade, Forza Horizon 5, Fable, and even Flight Sim, where they're like, that ain't in game. It's like, yeah, it is actually. It's kind of cool that Xbox can make games that look like a huge movie and not like a video game, Yes,
well, that's what PlayStation was always famous for, right? Making cinematic experience, making like essentially interactive cinematic experiences. So that when all of a sudden Fable pulls it off, and everyone's like, it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, man. Someone's got to do the, if you want to quote Cognito there, just the hashtag just one, that will be the just one, right? So you're going to have those moments.
Yeah,
right?
And I've been saying on this channel, like, they made Crash Bandicoot and then they turned around and made Uncharted. Like, don't sleep on studios. Like, one day they want to do something a little bigger and a little better. Grumble with the $5 super chat says, my PS5 only friend sent me a screenshot of the Series X he just bought just for Starfield. Says it's worth it because he'll play it for 3 years like Skyrim. Oh, love to hear that. Amen 3080 with the Australian 10 says, hey folks, Colt, what are your PC specs? Well, my PC is pretty good, but it's low on RAM. I only have 16 gigs of RAM, but I've got an RTX 3080 and a Ryzen 7 5800X, which is like a whole gigahertz faster than the Series X processor. But the Series X is not using a full ray trace global illumination for Starfield, according to Digital Foundry's best investigations. So my PC will probably be able to run that form of global illumination. My problem is I want the game to look like it does in that reveal, but I want it to run great. And like Todd Howard said, when you get these things down where it could run up to 60, but it won't hold it, getting a not he didn't use the word smooth. Getting a consistent experience is very important. And I've heard so many people say they don't care about 30 or 60. They just want a great, consistent experience. And gosh dang it, I wanted 60, but I love the way the game looks right now. And I don't know if you can get both. And I would venture to say if you'd like to get the fidelity of the Series X plus 60 frames, it's not going to cost you $500. It's going to cost you upwards $2,000 to get a desktop PC to do that. And then we'll see how that goes. But, people say, I got a budget build. Here's my PC part picker list and blah, 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 blah. And they always leave out something. Sir X-Men, thank you for the two. Says, can I play Starfield in the cloud when I'm not home? Yes, you can. And it will sync up your save.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same as any other game that's coming out. That you'll be able to access everything everywhere.
And I'll tell you, if you've got a wired connection in your house, my Series X is connected right to the port, so it doesn't have the Wi-Fi limitations. You load up a game on cloud, it'll be the Series X version, but it'll be at 1080p. And sometimes you're like, wow, I kind of forgot. The latency's not that bad if you're wired in. I'm like, it's probably not even noticeable. I don't really mess with it too much. Silent Cypher, thank you for the two. Says, but Mag, genital shifts, come on.
I mean, people were doing that. People were creating all that kind of stuff in Tears of the Kingdom, right? The Zelda game, and then I'm like, okay, all right. So people doing that, people are going to be doing that in Starfield. Me, as I was getting at about 15 minutes ago when we were talking about it, is that I'm going to play the game more streamlined because I'm not interested in any of that stuff. I'm not interested in building. I'm not interested. Doesn't mean I don't have the patience. I'll put in 170, 180 hours into a game to get that 1,000 out of 1,000 or a platinum, whatever system I'm playing on. Trust me, I have the patience. It's just I'm not interested in that style of gameplay. I'm not going to lie to myself. The other thing is, and just to clear the air with some people, if the game to me doesn't feel right, I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to consistently play it. I will play it. I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't feel right, I'm going to be like, you know what? This is just not working out for me. So we're going to have to wait to see till it's in my hand. But, however, for now, I'm going to trust what everybody said. What Colt said, he said what he saw playing was amazing. Todd Howard saying it's playing smooth and it's playing great, whatever. Then I will trust it. Then I will play it and I will enjoy it. Because there are games that I played at 30 that I've had a blast with and not an issue, right? So it doesn't all have to be 60. I'm just saying when I get it in my hands, eventually, whenever I get around to it, when I clear out the backlog, when I get to that, then I will play it and I'll say, you know what, this is for me or this is not for me. That's just the way it is. Because at the end of the day, some people have gone absolutely wild in this community where they're just like, some people are like, well, I'm not really interested in Starfield. And they're like, fraud. And I'm like, dude.
Well, some people aren't interested in sci-fi, and I get that. Some people don't really like Bethesda style games. They want a more streamlined game, kind of like you. I'm asking the chat right now.
No, but see, that's the thing, though. I like open world games are my jam, right? Mm-hmm. They're my jam. I'll play open world games all day, put hundreds of hours into each one of them. Not a problem.
But resource gathering for base building is probably not your jam. So I'm asking the chat. I'm asking the chat. Starfield, I'll spend most of my time. The way I got to say it because the way I write it quickly. If you were going to build in Starfield, audience, would you find yourself spending more time customizing your ship, or would you be more interested in customizing your outpost? And right now 73% are saying I would probably spend more time ship building than I would base building. And
because you're flying your ship everywhere, right? So that's you're in it more than you be in your base. Your base, you're basically going to go there.
Yeah, and I might spend more time building a base. I don't know. Like, you may get in there and realize that it only takes you like 5 minutes to do whatever you can do with what you have to build, and then you take off. But the base, you could be there for a while, and it just takes more time. I'm interested in both, but I'm actually more interested in the shipbuilding, probably like you are. Kind of like build your ship, add some color to it, and put some fuzzy dice in the mirror.
Fuzzy dice, obviously. You're gonna be flying that around more than anything else, right? You're not flying your base around. Your base is the kind of thing where you're gonna go there once every few days, and then you're gonna, go reload, go rest, do whatever, change your clothing, change your appearance, maybe do some workbench upgrade. But I would imagine, and this is just me, I would imagine, judging on, like, let's say, like a game like Jedi Survivor, which I just started, I would imagine that your ship is probably going to have all those things on it anyway. Like, for example, there's probably a workbench on the ship where you could be able to upgrade your weapons and, tinker around with your guns and put silencers on this and that, or scopes or whatever. They probably have it on the ship. You probably won't have to fly halfway across the galaxy to go back to your base to go, you know what I mean? To go and like, you know, put a scope on your gun and then fly all the way back out. Like you obviously be able to do this all on the fly, no pun intended. I would imagine also there's going to be a whole bunch of missions that revolve around, like, let's say your basic community, a la State of Decay, for example, right?
So
like
a lot of people have asked about land vehicles, and I'm pretty sure land vehicles don't exist in the game because they have not shown anything. I think that would have been something they would show, but they did say there's a lot more to the game. They didn't even talk about in the direct in 45 minutes. I went into the direct thinking, what else? I thought the direct was going to be 30 minutes. I'm like, what else could they do besides have some of the creators of the game, the developers, talk about how they built the game? But they spent all that time talking about what you can do in the game. And then they said they left things out. So are land vehicles in the game? I don't think so. But I guess at this point, I wouldn't rule it out because there's stuff they've left out. But it may be more of the nuanced stuff, like some of the magic powers you get. Here's this quote from Todd Howard where he said that the people are worried about the 1,000 planets being procedurally generated and that they're going to be like these dull areas where you just go to mine for resources. And he said the 1,000 planets in Starfield have more handcrafted content on them than Fallout 4 from 2015 and Skyrim from 2011 combined. Does that alleviate your worries about how many planets you have to visit in your playthrough?
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? Like I said, when we get there, we'll get there. Like I guess we could speculate till we turn blue in the face, right?
I mean, how many planets are most hardcores going to visit anyway? Because there's no way you're going to visit a majority of 1,000 planets.
I'm not visiting 1,000 planets.
Like, how many do you think?
However,
chat, write in the chat how many planets you think, as a diehard Bethesda fan, like how many planets are you really going to land on in your time as you play through the game for 100+ hours? 30?
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, though, if you do, though, not every player, because it's not going to be, on a procedural basis, not every player is going to visit the same planet, right? It's not like they unlock planet 1 to 20, and then as soon as you're done 20, then it unlocks 21 to 40. So, like you know what I mean? Like, players won't go in order. Those planets will be available, so you don't know. Like, for example, you, Colt, might visit planet 1, 5, 7, and 10, and I might visit 2, 8, 9, and 17. So they all have to be ready and populated with something because you don't know which planet the player is going to go to.
I'm going to do the math. How many planets do you think are in each solar system on average in the game?
Gray Monad, if you do all 1,000 of those planets, I want visual proof, and I want you to send it on XNC, and we're gonna put it right up on the screen. I want to see if anybody can actually do 1,000 planets. And I know that's
so funny. Everyone's like, I'm going to visit 999. Doing the simple math. If there are about 8 planets per solar system in the game, that leaves you 125 systems to visit in the world. And I said, maybe I'll visit 40 planets in my playthrough that are outside of the realm of normal exploration or main quest given stuff. But that means there's 120 some systems that I would have to seek out and land on just to see what's there or what I could find. I mean, it is strange. Like, why do you need that many planets?
Well, I think it's just for just for that added realism of being able to just say, you know what? I mean, I understand that we don't have access to 1,000 planets that we can go to. No. That's only because we don't have the capabilities to do so. If my understanding is correct, is that space in mathematically is infinite. So there could be 1,000 planets out there. By the way, Eric the Red probably has the funniest.
What'd he say?
I've been laughing nonstop. He goes, when you asked how many planets, he says, you'll find me hanging out in Neon City being a whore.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because Neon City has the psychotropic fish where people catch these fish and then they snort them and get really high. So that's like your cyberpunk.
I was about to say that's your cyberpunk planet.
Oh, I love it. And then you have your like Tatooine or your slums from the Star Wars in the United Colonies. No, Freestar Collective.
I want jungle planets. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker. I'll tell you right now. When it comes to any video game, I don't care what video game it is, I am a sucker for jungle settings. I don't know what the hell it is. It just does something. Like when I get to into like a Tomb Raider or Uncharted, and they go to South America, and they're in the jungle, I'm just like, oh.
It's the green and the brown and the shade and the cool. It's just I love it.
Even
I love
even Star Wars Battlefront 2, when they start off on Endor, I was just like, oh, the trees and the vegetation and everything else. Yeah,
Bobby,
yeah. Give me that. Yeah. Bobby, give me those planets.
You need to be lectured all day. You're hanging on that jungle planet.
Damn it. So I want that.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. We're going to get back to Starfield in just a moment. I think I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to talk about. Yeah, we'll leave that. I want to talk about Avowed. Avowed is Obsidian's pared down Skyrim. Is the best way to put it. Now, they led us to believe that Avowed is a fantasy RPG with the Doctor Strange magical powers that we see in Immortals of AVM. It's got the combat of Skyrim. It's got the limited scope of Outer Worlds. But we got a new insight from one of the developers at Obsidian that said something about the trailer, because the very first thing I want to cover, Mag, was when I saw Avowed, I'm super excited for it because Obsidian's one of my favorites. I thought, oh my gosh, this looks exactly like the Elder Scrolls Online trailers. Like, nearly identical. The amount of color, the limited visual flourishes, and I am really excited about it. But I was like, I'm going to be cool and temper my expectations about how it looks, because Outer Worlds had its certain look, but I love the game. And I said, if I'm doing fantasy RPG in that vein, I'm super happy, but no one's going to be saying, ain't no way that's in engine. What were your initial reactions when you saw Avowed on screen at the showcase?
Okay. I didn't like it. And, and it's not that I didn't like the game. I can't say I don't like the game because I didn't play it. I haven't played it, so that would be unfair for me to say the game's going to be trash or anything like that. Nothing like that. The game could be magnificent. From a visual perspective only. Everybody hear that? From a visual perspective only, I was underwhelmed. I was like, that's kind of not what I envisioned. Because when I saw that first trailer, with the arrows and the whatever, I was
very gritty, right?
I was picturing like a very realistic, dark, sort of maybe like an action RPG. Dark, like maybe like a Demon Souls remake kind of look to it. You know what I mean?
Sure,
like,
I got that. I get that.
That visual style. That's what I thought I was getting into. So then when they said Avowed, I'm like, yes. So I sat down. I'm like, all right, and I'm watching it. I'm like, what was that? I was like, that's not what I envisioned. But again, I will keep an open mind. But I will try it. But it was not what I was expecting. And
my concern was that it would be over here, my liege, and very dry or very Monty Python without the funny. I don't know how to explain that. Like, I'm not interested in chivalry. There's some of those fantasy RPGs that came out. There's an open world one that came out a couple years ago. I don't remember the name. Maybe it was What's the game where you I can't think of it right now, but there are some medieval fantasy games where the characters are wearing like the jester's outfit. That's one of the only things I don't like about Witcher 3 is some of the gear he wears looks really dorky.
Right.
I was afraid of the really nerdy Renaissance era. Is that? I understand I'm probably offending people that love like that really true to form Dark Ages medieval stuff, but I was really afraid that Avowed would be this staunch, highbrow, semi-realistic with magic, with dorky looking outfits, but. What we saw in the first few seconds looked amazing. Like, is this a new Assassin's Creed? And then the colors burst all over the screen. Yeah, and then the effects look cool.
Colors, I was like,
Kingdom Come Deliverance. Yes, that's the one, Moose.
Yeah.
Thank
Kingdom
you.
Come Deliverance.
Yes, and I saw a lot of that footage. I'm like, I just don't like that sort of over here, my liege. And it's
for the king.
I don't know. That's just me. That's just my opinion. That's kind of how But I'm with Mag. Like the Dark Souls thing is kind of how they portrayed it, and here's what the explanation of why. Yeah. So here, it's perfect that you and I get that grievance or that complaint out in the opening, because this is what the developer at Obsidian said. He says, "quote, To clear misconceptions, though, I'll say this. The game is big and open. It is unfair to compare it to Outer Worlds. I think Fergus Urquhart, who is the lead at Obsidian, is trying to keep expectations down just in case, which I think it is nothing alike. The studio that did the trailer for Avowed, I'm going to add in a couple words for reference here. He says the studio that did the trailer did some compression of colors and image editing. The screenshots that have been released before are much more representative of what it looks like running through it. They also may appear to be totally random shots within game. I'm not sure why these clips were chosen out of these things, probably to keep spoilers at minimum, he was saying. He also says a lot of the game is being kept hidden right now. I think you'll have to wait until the next trailer or some sort of presentation to really see it. He says, but it's safe to assume it is very Obsidian. No, the entire game is not all bright and happy town. No, it is not all indistinct visually. There are lots of characters, quests, conversations, various game mechanics, big story, etc. Development is going really well right now, and Microsoft has allowed Obsidian free license to do as they will. And if it is a success or fails, it will be on Obsidian's own term. And that is Brian Diem from Obsidian. And he also says that this will be one of the longest alphas or pre-alpha builds that they're doing this year. And the game, according to the experts, is probably launching at the end of 2024. Meg, I don't know if you were able to catch some of those words he said, but does that help you out in how you felt on the initial showing?
No, sure. Yeah, it does. It does. But again, you know, from what I saw and from what he's saying, it sounds like two opposite ends of like you know what I mean, of the spectrum. I'm like, okay, well, I saw this, but he's saying this, and I'm like, it's not that I believe one or the over the other. I'm like, it's probably an amalgamation of both here, right? So like, you can have a game like, for example, and it's not all about like visual whatever. Like it says, oh, just because it's not what I envisioned, I'm not going to play it, or it's going to be bad. That's ridiculous. Because one of my favorite series of all time, one of them is Borderlands. I adore Borderlands.
Yes.
I adore that series. I have played the living hell out of that series. Like Borderlands 3, I got, you ready for this, folks? 3,000 out of 3,000 achievements on Borderlands 3 because I absolutely adored it. Borderlands 2, 2,000 out of 2,000.
Yeah, I got a lot of time in it.
And the Handsome Jack collection, I got 100% on all of them. I adore them. They are colorful. Art style, whatever the hell you want to call it, maybe even cell shading a little bit thrown in there, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter because the game itself is magnificent, right? The story is fantastic. All the stories on Borderlands were all great, and like I said, the art style and everything else. So I'm totally all in, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a midway point between one of the best looking games and then a Borderlands game where it's very, very stylized, but the color's supposed to be more muted.
I have to play Avowed, Colt. I have to play it myself.
Yeah, I know.
To say, you know what? This game is hot or this game is not. Like I thought Outer Worlds was okay for me. I just wasn't jiving with it. Maybe I'll go back and like revisit it because I keep hearing a lot of people saying that Outer Worlds is one of the best games they played, this and that. It's so fantastic. And I'm like, maybe I missed something or maybe I was in a bad mood when I played it. I don't know.
Well,
but
Outer Worlds,
let me go back and try it.
I really, really liked Outer Worlds, but it constantly reminds you that it's not as big as Fallout and it's not as immersive as Mass Effect. Like it tries
doesn't
to
have
dip
be big. Like I'm okay with it being a smaller scale as long as it's a really great experience. But I just wasn't vibing with it, so I'm like, no.
Well, I mean, Outer Worlds
thing.
is like an 85 or lower because it doesn't kind of go above and beyond some of those things you'd expect from a sci-fi RPG. You get midway through the game and you don't want to use any more perk points. You're like, I don't want any of these. So that's a problem. But Obsidian's amazing. And I could tell you from my time of playing Outer Worlds and playing, you're not going to like it when you hear this, playing Grounded, there are mechanics and the way you approach combat that gets me really excited about Avowed. I kind of forgot where I was going to go with this, but I think you can expect really great things from this team. But it is interesting that they blasted the color so hard, and everyone's first reaction was like, "That kind of looks a little hokey."
I didn't know what it was. I'm like watching it, and I'm like, it took me off guard. It took me completely off guard. And I was like, "What the hell was that?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever. It is what it is." But once again, I'll be like, we'll just wait and see, because I don't have to dish. I hate to say this, and I really hate to say this, but it's one of those situations that when you're on the fence, especially with Xbox, you could just be like, well, I guess I'll try it out in Game Pass and see if I like it or not.
Yeah,
right?
I think they'll be able to generate a lot of excitement. I want to talk about some of the combat, and I've watched this footage back several times, so I've kind of clocked all the different combat, and I guess I'll jog your memory. Do you remember what type of combat or type of weaponry you saw? I want to kind of break that down quickly.
The combat. Well, what I remember mostly was the magic, because it was so visually distracting, like that I didn't notice the weapons as much. I was watching all the magic, all the Doctor Strange stuff happening, right? And I was watching that mostly, so I actually pretty much ignored all the other stuff. So you'll have to refresh me on it.
So they're gonna have to do something about that Doctor Strange fire cast spell, because while he was casting the spell, you couldn't see the enemy he was aiming at.
That's
because
what
there was.
I'm saying. It was so distracting.
They're gonna
like,
have to pull back that that ring so there's more visual transparency. Make it smaller, or take. So if the ring was taking up most of the screen, the glow that bled through was covering the enemy. They're gonna have to pull that back and make it more pin shaped or something, but more pin lined. But there was a kind of a cool thing where the character like kicked a guy in the head, where you have a dedicated kick button where you can do like the Zockers in the chat, do the Malaka, and do the Spartan kick. There's also dual wielding flintlock pistols that were like shock pistols. They were like charged up with a shock magic, and the character like dual wielded these shock pistols. There was also I don't even know what they were because we've watched them, but there was like these shock balls that they unleash like an array of like 5 or 6 heat-seeking shock testicles that fly towards people. I don't know what to call it. But there was some really cool stuff. What else was there? There was like a lift. Like they did Riskus says pin-shaped ring. I mean pin lines. I'm thinking as a graphic designer, like pin lining. They had a very thick orange ring, but to make that a very thin read of a line so you can actually see your target. There was like I don't know, like they did a lift thing like you'd see in Mass Effect or in like Star Wars, but it was green colored effect that I should have put some of this stuff on screen, but I'd have to keep recycling it over and over. But it like brought the enemy to their knees. You had a classic Skyrim or like a Skyrim ice crystals that shoot out of the hand, and then they like smack the guy's head off. So you got some this is what's called on today. Dr. Pepper. So very Brisket. Don't you remember the thing that he casted the circle of fire that was in front of his face, and he threw a ball? Like the circle of fire completely obscured your view of the target.
When I was watching the trailer, all I saw was the magic.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay. I'm seeing it. And I'm like, okay, there's lots of magic. And then I didn't even really notice the other stuff because, like I said, it was very distracting. So maybe if they scale it back a little bit, but they're not going to. Where are they going to listen to me? They'll be like, everybody in the office, everybody stop doing what you're doing. Mag doesn't like the magic. Make it smaller and lower so he can see what he's doing. They're not going to do it. It's basically done now. This is the way it's going to be. But hey, you never know. We don't know exactly what the final product's going to be and how it's going to play out. Might play out great, might not. Who the hell knows? We're not going to find out until it releases. When
what we do? What you do find out is Xbox shows their games. I had an argument with somebody, if you can believe it or not, online about how Xbox normally shows their games, and they usually don't get the downgrade by launch because they show the games and they get bashed so hard that by the time the game comes out, it gets slightly better than the initial reveal when they show gameplay, not CGI crap. So, I would totally expect Avowed to see some great flourishing changes as they work on it over the next probably year and a half. So, Avowed looks great, but it's good to know that some of that stuff is being held back. We talked about South of Midnight. There's not really much to talk about, but the NXL team is excited about Clockwork Revolution because they're like in due time, but they're really talking about it and showed a lot of gameplay. Like they showed like 15 to 20 seconds of actual gameplay. Like when's this game coming out?
Well, it's no release year. So once again, it could be past 2024, or they don't want to commit to a date just in case they run into a couple of snafus, which is the wise thing to do. Do the PlayStation thing. Don't announce the game until it's already gone gold practically, and then announce the the release date or whatever. When I mean by gold internally, not publicly.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
They do that, and if you actually watch some of those developer diaries or whatever, or even some of those documentaries about how some of the studios make their games on the Sony side of things, what they do is that they actually go gold in quotations internally and then announce a release date so that it's an absolute guarantee that the game's coming out that day. The only one that they had some problems with was Uncharted 4 back in the PS4 generation, right? So, anyways, and then of course they pushed Horizon Forbidden West, but that was because of COVID, whatever. That was a rough time for everybody. But anyways, besides that,
now their rough time is now after Spider-Man 2 releases.
Well, yeah, presumably, yeah. It's going to be a lot of third-party stuff. But anyways, that's beside the point. I was just bringing that up, is that they're doing this because in case they run into a couple of issues or whatever, you have some breathing space, because all you said was in due time. You didn't say what year, you didn't say what month, you didn't say what day. So you're taking pressure off of the people making the game. However, they still need to put pressure internally and say, guys, just because it says in due time doesn't mean you're going out every day for buffets and asparagus smoothies
and mimosas.
Okay? Yeah, and mimosas. Work on the game and get it done, right? So it's got to be that they got to put pressure on internally, like a normal job, like everybody else's job. You just have to do all that kind of stuff. So they got to get it done. But on the external part of things, at least they could take the pressure off from the public and from the media and from jerks like us and and all the fine people in the chat today, right? So like things like that. That's the kind of thing that you have to just give them the breathing space, and that's fine, so that they don't face that external pressure. Internal, absolutely, they need it. They need it. You need structure. You need structure in order to perform. That's just the way it is, right? So
I agree. If you're paying studios, paying for their time and their property and everything, that you should say, look, we're not paying you forever. But it is interesting that Fable and Clockwork Revolution showed gameplay when I was told by Xbox that they like to show gameplay 12 months before the game releases, but that doesn't mean that those games will come out by next summer. But it does mean, by leaving that open, that if they let's just pretend that In Exile and Playground are like, we could get our games out by next holiday in 2024, in a year and a half from now, we could do that maybe, but we're not committing to that, because look how that's ended up for everyone. Flintlock, I forgot the full name of the game. Flintlock from Focus Entertainment just moved their game all the way to 2024. They're one of the promised 12-month games that should have come out by 2023. And
like we discussed earlier,
Yeah, this is the reality. Every studio is seeing it. Everyone is seeing it. So, I hit the like button if you're having a good time. We're just trying to get through the craziness of these games, but thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for Pushing Polygons, for being a sponsor of the podcast today and of the videos. Let's totally switch gears and talk about Star Wars Outlaws, which showcased the same week and does a lot of the things that Starfield does, but has a really nice, beautiful visual aesthetic. Of course, it's pared back in scope to what you can do. But did you watch the gameplay reveal, and how you feeling about it?
Okay, let me get into that. I'm super happy about that you brought that up. By the way, Brian's casual cosplay, he says, I'm surprised Colt hasn't called it Clockwork Orange. If you actually listen to the first half of the show, Brian, we actually were making jokes about that we did call it Clockwork Orange a few times.
I had to edit my video last week because I said Clockwork Orange I wrote Revolution on the script, and I just kept saying it. And my wife walked in the room when I was editing something. She goes, "You called it Clockwork Orange right there." I'm like, dang it.
So, you know what the funny thing is? They're probably banking on the fact, like the marketing guys are probably banking on the fact that nobody's old enough to remember Clockwork Orange, so it won't be an issue. Because like my kids don't know what that is, right? They don't know what the hell that Clockwork Orange is, so all they're going to say is Clockwork Revolution, right? But for old farts like us who've actually been around since the 70s, we've seen Clockwork Orange. We know what it's all about.
I don't want to get into that. I think that movie precedes our age. Maybe it's like way earlier.
I think it's a year.
You were talking about Star Wars Outlaw and how the female character isn't sexy enough, so you don't want to play it. Go ahead.
Listen, I watched that reveal of course, on the Xbox showcase, and I'm like, all right, cool. Didn't get excited for it because I'm like, once again, I'm like, all right, you're just showing me some stuff. All right.
Yeah.
I want to see somebody like the old days. Remember the old days of E3? The dude would show up, whether it was real or not, or staged or not. Dude would show up on stage with a controller, and then the big screen, and he'd sit there and play, or at least pretend to play. You know what I mean? While they had a vertical slice going. When I got excited for Star Wars Outlaws was when they did the Ubisoft Forward.
Yeah.
I thought, in my opinion, was a fantastic show. It was exciting. It had games I wanted to play. It showed gameplay, so I knew exactly what I was getting. Right? They showed a lot of Assassin's Creed.
Right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But
Outlaws looks impressive. It looks really good.
When they showed like the extended like actual gameplay of Outlaws or whatever, I was totally pumped, and I'm like, I want this game. Like this is, and so the funny thing is, actually, someone reached out to me because I voiced my concerns, with some people I talked to or whatever, and I'm like, all these we talked about earlier in the show about Starfield, about all the little arbitrary things on the side. Not little, I'll say the arbitrary things that I'm not interested in, like for example, like shipbuilding or base building or like mining or whatever. Right? I'm not interested in that stuff. So someone said to me, maybe you need like that halfway point of between Starfield and Star Wars Outlaws, because it almost seems like one is like the sort of like the more casual version of Starfield, and Starfield is a more hardcore sci-fi.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like it's like whereas like Star Wars Outlaws seems to be like that sort of action adventure sci-fi fantasy, and then Starfield seems to be that hardcore like sci-fi, real hardcore sci-fi, right? For like the real hardcore, like when you're watching like your 2001s, like your Stanley Kubrick kind of sci-fi,
your interstellar
right? So
sci-fi,
I'm like, all right. Yeah, or even interstellar sci-fi, that kind of thing.
What is Star Wars Outlaw more like? Because people are looking at it thinking, oh, this kind of looks like Ubisoft's version of this or that with the Star Wars spin. Like I sort of got like a Watch Dogs Division. It's the team that made the Division. I sort of got like that Ubisoft cover shooter with the dressing of a Star Wars game, but there's so much more. Did you get any of that, or chat? Did you get any other like, oh, this is kind of like Ubisoft's this game dressed up as Star Wars?
It seemed to me like a Star Wars, sort of like a Starfield Light kind of vibe to it. Yeah. I'm not saying it's light in terms of like light in content or anything like that. I'm just saying it seems to be like the lighter version, maybe not so heavy on the sci-fi version of like Starfield, where you're going from planet to planet, you're doing things, you're doing missions. Maybe even like it's more of an RPG version, more so of an RPG version of Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order. Because again, you're on your ship, you're going from planet to planet, you're doing missions, you're doing this, that, and the other thing. You're traveling around. However, there seems to be much more gunplay and things like that of that nature. So that's where your Division comes in, right? So I think it's an amalgamation of all those different things. But to me, I thought it looked great. I thought it looked hot, man. I was excited for it. When I saw that, I was like, yes, give me that. If the Star Wars movies and shows are failing us, give us a game that's not going to fail us. And this looks like it is. And so far, Jedi Survivor is fantastic. I'm enjoying it. And this Star Wars Outlaws looks great too. I'm really excited to play it.
I'm surprised they didn't give them like a minute of gameplay or a gameplay montage before they revealed on Monday or Tuesday, because they showed a total of like, I think 9 minutes of almost continuous gameplay of Outlaws. I thought, why didn't they give them like a cut up montage for maybe 30 seconds for the Xbox showcase? Because all we got was a really nice CGI trailer. When we were in the audience and I was sitting next to Risk It for the Biscuit, and that opening scene with the Star Wars ships blasting over and the music, we were like, oh my gosh. And I thought, oh, here's that what do you call it? The ZeniMax Online Star Wars Mandalorian era game. And this is where there's smoke, there's fire. There was a lot of rumors about ZeniMax Online moving on from Elder Scrolls Online and building a Star Wars MMO. And I thought this was it. And I think this is where those wires get crossed, where insiders were thinking they knew something, but then what it really was a deal behind the scenes for Xbox to showcase Ubisoft Massive's game. And they don't get all the information. I mean, I think that could be fair of how that happened. But we got a Star Wars game, but it's a total multi-plat. And yeah, I don't know. It does do a lot of stuff that Starfield does. Let me grab
that's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't go into that deep deep systems that Starfield is going to have, right? Where you'd be able to spend 3 days doing, building this or doing whatever, building a village, whatever the hell you're up to. Yeah. Whereas this is going to be like I said, like an action adventure game, right? Where you're not going to be doing all that stuff. So that's what someone said to me. He says, maybe this is more your jam. And I said, yeah, seems that way.
Well, I mean,
it's not like I'm not going
to play both. Yeah, you get to play both.
I'm playing both, so it makes no difference to me. It's just a matter of when.
Wait, when does Outlaws come out?
Actually, very disappointingly, 2024. I was pretty pissed.
Oh, okay.
I was about to say it got delayed, but that's not true. It was never delayed at all. But yes, 2024, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I was sad, but that's okay. We got lots to play this year.
I mean, I'll be playing Starfield until then anyway.
I was gonna say, it'll give me a chance to play that first, so I can get that, you know what I mean, in and out of my system, and be like, all right, let's.
Yeah, because right now you don't really get the sci-fi games to kind of give you that fulfilling thing right now. Spartan661, thank you for the $2. Says, I wear glasses. Anyone else? And then he says, why does it matter? I don't know. I'm pretty sure.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people are wearing glasses. I put mine on as soon as I wake up because I like to be able to see. Bunty with the $5 super. Thank you so much, Bunty.
What's up, brother? What's up?
He says, I'm going to visit all the planets first and then move on to the rest of the game. That's my plan because I think you're going to level up while visiting. Also, you have to level up your ship so you can jump to those further away. Meg, you talked about that, how you can't just go to every system you want right away. You'll have to upgrade your warp drive or whatever, your space folder.
I would imagine so, but at some point, you will be able to access. I would imagine if you put the time and effort into it, you will be. I mean, that would be for like really hardcore, dedicated players that really gravitate to the game. Then I could see unlocking all 1,000 planets. I can't see 1,000 planets being available from the get-go because you're probably going to have a clunker of a ship to start, right? And then you probably have to build it up, and then get a warp drive, and warp maximum warp, whatever, right? So you're gonna have to work on that. You got to
get a Keurig for the HUD, all that stuff
and then, of
is
course,
super important.
A bigger ship, because a little tiny ship ain't gonna go across the galaxy. You need like a bigger, like a starship at some point to be able to go, into multiple galaxies, right? So it's a cool concept. It's a cool idea. You have to have the patience to be able to get that far, and I think you'll be rewarded for that. Where you'd be like, oh wow, I spent X amount of hours doing all this stuff or whatever, and then I just accessed whatever the Delta Quadrant, and there's all these cool planets here that I've never seen. So it's going to be this constant exploration. It's kind of a cool concept.
I just don't want to
I like it.
I don't want to be lost out in a galaxy far away from connecting to the galaxy where the main quest is, and that's where I am with No Man's Sky. It's really, really frustrating, but I would assume halfway through some of the main quests, you unlock the ability to go wherever you want when you're ready, but I don't know. We'll see. Risk Giver the Biscuit, thank you for the chat. He says, FanFest was absolute fire. Had a great time chilling with Colt and all the guys. Was a pity Bruce missed it. AKA Mag.
Hey, man. I was drunk for I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was drunk for 5 or 6 straight days, and it was magnificent. But the funny thing is, it was always in the morning from 10 in the morning till 5 o'clock, and then we would sober up and go out for dinner. My poor kids. My kids had a blast. We had a great time. It was amazing. Just in paradise. Man, was it hot. Holy mackerel, was it hot down there.
We had a great time at FanFest, and shout out to Riskit, who flew all the way over from Australia and got the royal treatment and met everybody, shaked everybody's hand. He got called out and interviewed in the seat in front of the virtual FanFest crew on camera. Aaron Greenberg called him out by name in front of everybody in the theater, and it was just a really great time. And in LA, it was 60 degrees the whole week. They had an unprecedented. So we were not hot, but we had a good time.
Oh, and it's funny because it was 125 by breakfast in the Dominican.
Yikes.
I'm not kidding. And everybody thinks I'm oh, come on, Mag. No, dude, we were melting, and it was 7:30 in the morning. It was death. And you basically had to be in the water. That's why I got burnt so bad. If you had to be in the water just to be able to whatever. And the
To
funny
stay
thing
cool.
is and the people that worked in the resort, they were all wearing these leotard thingies under their like shorts and t-shirts that like covered their legs and covered their arms. And I'm like,
Oh, so
what
they
the
wouldn't
hell's
burn
this?
their skin. Yeah.
So because it was so brutally hot and the sun was so potent that they literally were like all the way up to their wrists and ankles wearing these like these leotard things under their shorts and t-shirts because it was that brutal. And of course,
Jeez.
me like a schmuck. I'm in the pool with like 2 beers and I'm like, ah! And then of course I come back to the room like a burnt meatloaf. Yeah, so anyways.
Speaking of brutal, that's a nice segue. We are looking at, is 30 FPS really the reality of the rest of the generation? Because PlayStation, here comes a rant that people are going to love to clip from me, but I love to give rants that people will clip. But right now, PlayStation is yet to truly deliver a full next generation game. Now, they've had next generation only games like Demon's Souls, Spider-Man 2 is coming. Let me stop on Spider-Man 2 for a minute. Now, I'm really excited for Spider-Man 2, but my excitement is a little bit kind of pared back because this is the third Spider-Man game I've had in 4 years, okay? The only thing that makes Spider-Man 2 fully next generation is not the ray tracing. That was already there. It is the hot swappable characters between Miles and Peter in just the snap of fingers. That's something that you can only do with a fast I/O of a PS5 or a Series X. So the true next generation experience has not yet come to consoles yet. Demon's Souls, Ratchet and Clank with its portals that they say could only happen on a PS5 has kind of been debated pretty hotly by developers, and that game's coming to PC and doesn't require an SSD. So yes, we have not yet seen a full next generation game, but Xbox has already released almost 3 games that will run at 30 FPS on the world's most powerful console. Number 1 is Flight Sim, which runs at 60 and drops down to 30 in VRR mode. Redfall, which, wow, what did you guys do there? But that one's at 30, and I don't believe that Redfall will be 60 until the end of this year, come October or possibly November. Who cares? Too late. You screwed it up. It doesn't matter. Starfield is 30 FPS. We know that much. Starfield is your first fully next generation game. Global illumination, huge, massive galaxy, the most immersive next generation graphics, plus Forza Motorsport is also full Gen 9 graphics. I talked to Chris Sasaki at the Xbox showcase in a room with him with 10 people while they showed us the game running on Series X. They're not talking about performance modes, but what if Forza Motorsport has ray tracing in game, but it's 30? That's the question we're asking. As games get fully next generation, is the power of the Series X and the PS5 going to run into a bump where they're going to have to run games at 30 and they can't run at 60? This is a question that Richard Ledbetter from Digital Foundry posed almost a year ago, and I didn't believe him because I thought there's no way they haven't tapped into all the other things, but devs are finally going to start pushing. Now, I ranted too long for somebody to get like a really great clip, but I'll say it concisely that PlayStation's amazing looking games and their great high selling, high rated games are all based on design criteria from the PS4. And you cannot argue because I can't bring up the list right now, but Demon's Souls is next gen only, but it's a remaster of a PlayStation 2 game or PlayStation 3.
PlayStation 3, but it was a remake, not a remaster. However,
it's a remake.
Layout,
yes,
the layout was identical,
and it would run on a PS4 hands down. Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2 are all PS4 design criteria games. The same goes for Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, all these remasters they've done, and The Last of Us remaster. What big game? Oh, Returnal. Returnal can run on a PS4. Obviously, it's not fully next generation. It doesn't do anything that pushes the consoles to the absolute limit. Now, we have seen games like Forspoken that run at like 720 to 1200p in performance mode on a PS5, and they can hardly hold 60 frames. So we are running into a situation where the consoles can't handle fully future pushing games like Fable, which is shown at 30 frames. Hellblade. I told people on the show that Hellblade might only run at 24 FPS Maybe it'll have performance mode because they typically normally do. I wouldn't be shocked if they did. But I also told you I wouldn't be shocked if Starfield had a performance mode, and it does not. I also did not think in a million years they were going to use some sort of global illumination, which is very taxing on the GPU, and the CPU is already taxed out, like we covered. Meg, it's a big, long rant, but do you think the eventuality of 30 FPS is what we're going to get on the consoles as they build brand new, bigger games?
Yeah. Here's the thing. You brought up a couple of things about how, between Microsoft between Xbox and Sony, it seems that Xbox is pushing more towards next-gen experience, like next-gen / current-gen experiences, where they're going to be the games are going to be much more complicated, much bigger. It's going to be a lot more advanced now, and they're doing a lot of innovative things. Now, the thing is, what I'm seeing on the PlayStation side, which seems to be working, and this is where my thought might be very controversial for some, is that maybe they stick with that. And like for PlayStation, for example, make games that could still play, because these games that you just mentioned that could still play on the PS4 look and play absolutely incredible on the PS5. So the thing is, maybe they just stick with that for the rest of this gen. And so, yes, on a technical level, they will be behind Xbox in terms of the ingenuity of the games moving forward for the rest of this generation. However, they're going to market them as PS5 only. But I think on a fundamental level, yes, you probably would be able to play them on a PS4 Pro. But they're going to make them look awfully pretty, and they're all going to play at 60 and with a performance mode, and they're going to move it like that. And that, my friends, is when the majority of people don't care, because they're going to look at the game, it's going to look amazing, it's going to play amazing, and whatever else. And an Xbox is going to be pushing, basically trailblazing towards a more technically advanced future in terms of gaming. But as a result of that, they're going to suffer that bottleneck of 30 frames per second. That's my personal view. That's my personal feeling, as that's what I think they're going to do. So whereas it's been proven generation after generation that Microsoft / Xbox is always the one who has to be the whipping boy, so to speak, because they're the ones trailblazing for the future. You remember when they put an Ethernet connection in the back of the original Xbox? People destroyed them for that. What the hell do you need that crap for? Blah, 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 blah. And then when they introduced online, they did it first. And then all the firsts that Xbox did. You remember when Kinect came out? You know what I'm saying? Everybody was like, the government is going to be watching you sleep. Meanwhile,
I know. Nobody wants Xbox to push innovation, but we do have to make a good point that we're not talking about the way games look or the visuals or the graphic fidelity. Like, that doesn't really tell the whole story, because The Last of Us Part 1, the remake, or Last of Us Part 2, and Red Dead Redemption 2 are some of the most impressive looking games that are out right now, and they're fully Gen 8 design criteria, semi-open worlds, loading screens in between this area and that, or full open worlds where they try to keep it mostly connected. Like, this is something we've played for 10 something years. Like, and we love those games. Those games are amazing, but there are different ways of building games that are going to be pushing forward, where I guess I'll give you the explanation directly from Alex Battaglia. He says, there's a quote from Phil about the Series X too. I'll get that in a second. Where is it? I even have his name here. Come on, there it is. Digital Foundry says the 2019 and 2020 GPU and CPU tech. Now, he said 2019 and 2020, but actually the Series X and S and PS5 are closer to 2018 graphics cards. They're more like the 2070 Super, according to a lot of experts, but they have some extra architecture in them, where Digital Foundry says they're really in the era of 2019 and 2020. So just think about that. It's 2023. These big games that will come out from PlayStation and Xbox are not launching until close to 2025. And 5 years is a lot in tech time. Here's their quote. The 2019 and 2020 GPU and CPU tech in the PS5 and Xbox Series X can only go so far. I personally think Starfield targeting 30 FPS makes a lot of sense. If you've ever tried to run Star Citizen on PC, I think you'll get a sense why 30 FPS is a sensible cap for consistency. And that's from Alex Battaglia. And he talked about how that performance of locking it, he showed, if you've seen Star Citizen, it looks amazing. It's got like the visual fidelity of a Call of Duty game, but it's an open universe. And he was on a tram going through one of the main cities, and the game was running at 17 frames per second. And it looked like it was running at 2 frames. It looked so horrid on screen. And he said that inconsistency is all over the place on a great PC and with a game like that is so massive. So Phil Spencer said, mid-gen consoles doesn't feel an imperative to release another Xbox. That's not the feedback we're getting right now, he said. We're pretty set on the hardware he have. And Phil Spencer said this to Bloomberg last week in his interview after the Xbox showcase, when we're fairly confident that PlayStation is going to announce next year the coming of the PS5 Pro. And if this happens, Mag, Digital Foundry's analysis, where PlayStation has been able to beat Xbox in some big games, it will be game over for the fans that are like, why in the world are we stuck with the Series X when PlayStation continue to move forward with iterative hardware when Phil said he would do that?
It's an arms race, right? It's always an arms race. One's always going to punch the other one. It's always going to be one punching above their weight in order to be, you know what I mean, to get that higher ground, right?
Yeah.
And then if PS5 makes this move, which I think they will, I mean, there are way too many people talking about it for it to not be true. I think it is true. And they're talking that you won't see this thing until the end of 2024 or at the beginning or somewhere in 2025. That would make sense. That'd be about the 5-year mark. Now, the only thing that doesn't make sense is the fact that we lost 2 years of basically with COVID because of the supply chain. A lot of people didn't get their Xboxes and PS5s until this year, right? So some people had to wait like well, I mean, it seems silly, but a lot of people, casuals weren't interested in getting the consoles day
Most
one, right?
people got their console like year 2, seems like, right?
That's what I'm saying. And I got mine day one, both of them. I got the PS5 day one. I got the Series X day one, right? No problem, right? But we are not normal people. We are the hardcore.
Yeah.
So, we're there day one it's like, the lunatics that line up 6 days before an Apple iPhone gets released. They're out there with tents and everything. Actually, kind of looks like LA anyway. But anyways, the point is that, that's the kind of the hardcore. The casual will wait for that. So now for the people like that, they're like, I just bought this thing. And all of a sudden, a year later, out comes the next one, right? But tech waits for nobody. Okay,
No.
because you know what? By the time you get the iPhone 14, the iPhone 15 is already being announced, right? So it doesn't really make a difference. Or the fact that, especially in the U.S., not Canada as much, but in the U.S., you guys got excellent trade-in values for your consoles. You could be able to get the console for a couple of $100. So like a PS5 right now, you could probably still get $250, $300 trade-in for a $500 console, right?
And then pay $200 or whatever in the U.S. to get your upgrade.
You get it, and you got your upgrade, right? $200 is nothing in the world of tech, right? So the same thing. But the thing is, if Xbox has taken the stance that they're not doing it, and it seems like they're not because, let's face it, at the end of the show, the one last thing was a Series S 1 terabyte. Right? So the fact that was the one last thing means they're not going to announce new hardware at the next show. That would be just redundant at that point. Everybody's like, all right, dude, like enough with the hardware, right?
Well, so the problem is that Phil Spencer kind of poses it like, he hasn't said this, but he kind of poses it like the Series X is already the mid-gen. But if you look at what the Series X can do, Digital Foundry's video is amazing, where they said in the beginning we got all these cross-gen games where the developers were able to flex the new processing power and make Gen 8 games look like Gen 9 games. I'm
That's
sorry.
What I'm saying.
I hope you understand when I say Gen 8, Gen 9. Let me rewind and say when you make PS4 games look like PS5 games, but they run at 60. And they were able to do that. Now we're looking at games coming out on big multiplats on PS5 and Xbox Series X that run closer to 1080p at 60 or can't even hold 60. And someone said in the chat earlier, and I told him I agreed, I don't remember who said it, that just get rid of the ray tracing. But I don't think it's ray tracing, so to speak. There's design criteria that is kind of far beyond the scope of what we talk about most of the time, right? it's design criteria and design methods that developers use where they're going to push what they couldn't do before because they only had so much frequency, they only had so much clock or so much RAM or so much input output speed. Now that they have that available, they can widen the scope of what they're doing. We've had huge, massive games, but there's just that level of immersion that's going to come that may push us to 30 FPS. Hargit Johnny in the chat sends two super chats. Thank you so much. He says, just for your information, Ryan McCaffrey from IGN did ask about performance modes in Forza Motorsport, and it will have only one mode, 4K at 60 FPS. Also, pretty sure Flight Sim is only 30. Okay, that's incorrect. What can I say? I guess I could tell you what they told me, which I could have written in a video. They said that there are multiple modes in Forza Motorsport, and they're not talking about them right now. So that's why I thought multiple modes. I was able to see the full performance mode on Forza Motorsport running on Series X, and he told me that's 4K 60 without ray tracing. So that's with Gen 9 graphics, he said, and he used that phrase, and he was so excited when he said that because the game looks phenomenally impressive. So he said, you were seeing performance mode. And so I'm thinking, what's ray tracing mode? I was like, they lower the resolution and keep 60. I mean, knowing Turn 10, I would expect that game to run at 60. So to Hargit Johnny's chat, there are multiple modes. And that I don't get from that 2 modes. I get 3, maybe 4, maybe more. We'll see. But we're wondering how ray tracing actually runs on the Series X. Hargit Johnny also adds, Zocker and D from RDX have been warning us about 30 frames. He says, until I see 60 FPS with these newer games, I am still concerned. I hope that they can do 60 FPS.
I don't think they will. I think that the only way that they could do it is do what I was saying. The Gen 8 games and jazz them up into Gen 9 games. Because as far as I'm concerned, let's say for the next couple of years, if the game looks magnificent to me and plays magnificent, what other innovations do I require? You know what I'm saying? That's the way I'm looking at it. Like, for example, if I'm playing a game on the Xbox, whatever game it is, okay, and it's a Gen 8 game, jacked up to like with Gen 9 features, okay, graphics and otherwise. The only other things I can think of is, like, for example, besides Gears of War Hive Busters on the Xbox side, and Horizon Forbidden West on the PlayStation side, those 2 games could be played on Gen 8, right? They were released on Gen 8, but with on the Series X for Hive Busters and the PS5 for Horizon Forbidden West, to me, with all the features and all the and the 60 FPS and the graphics and everything else, I'm sold. Good enough. Give me that until you could give me better hardware. Until then, I think that these games are all going to be 30. I don't think you're going to get 60 on those Xbox games coming up.
Here's something contrary to what you're saying. Apparently, Gears 6 was supposed to be ready to show at the showcase. And I was told, quote, Gears 6 looks next level insane. Think Matrix demo at 60 FPS on Xbox Series X.
It's a more linear game. I would expect it to be. It's like Call of Duty. Call of Duty's never going to be. You can make Call of Duty into like the most next gen looking thing you've ever experienced in your life, but because it's a basic, because it's a more linear experience, it's just like racing, right? To a certain extent, is that you're going to actually, you'll be able to keep it at 60 without any hesitation and without any issue.
What if Gears 6 is actually more open than Gears 5 was, because now they have access to the generated worlds and the lighting system and all that Unreal Engine 5 tech that they showed off in the Matrix demo, which gives you access to a full entire city that you can fly over and drive through in the game at high fidelity. The Coalition of all people could be the one to pull it off.
The Coalition are wizards with Unreal Engine. We all know that. That's like the mantra, right? They are the ones who can pull it off. I would give them faith. My faith is in them to pull it off more than anybody else. Would be a Coalition.
Yeah.
Like I said, they are the masters of Unreal Engine. So I would expect that. But, and then I know some people are going to make that thing and say, well, if they could do that with Gear 6, why can't they do it with Starfield? It's two different ball games entirely, right? Starfield is way different in terms of its scale and scope than like Gears of War. Yes, you can have like an open world in Gears of War, let's say, but it's not going to be to the size and scope of something of Starfield, right? I'm not making excuses for Starfield. I'm not at all.
There's a limitation to the creation engine, which is something we didn't get into. The creation engine,
that's a whole thing. Yes,
it's a whole thing. The creation engine ties the physics to the frame rate for frequency, and yes, they clock it that way, where you're able to have differing gravities. And I think probably because you're on creation engine, where they can tie those things, and it's also the reason why you can't just set the frame rate for a Bethesda game to 120 or 90 without modding it, without using some type of workaround, because it'll break physics. They said you get wonky animations, you get things flying off when they're not supposed to, because it speeds up the calculation of when something drops in a 1-to-1 ratio according to the frame rate. So people on PC can have it whatever frame rate they want. Typically they have to do a mod to do that. So if you've got a PC that can run at 60, you can do that because they're able to run in that clock frequency, but we'll see how that ends up working out. But Gear 6, I don't know when we're going to see it, but Jess Corden from Windows Central says that your patience will be rewarded. So, like, are they going to announce this Gears collection and then say, here's a sneak peek into the next chapter of Gears at like the Video Game Awards in December?
That's what we thought was going to happen at this show, to be quite honest. A lot of us, myself included, I thought they were going to announce the Gears Collection UE5 Gears Collection at this show, and then give a tiny, tiny teaser for Gears of War 6, and then just not say anything about it for the rest of the year. But apparently, I guess maybe they held it off, and they'll show it at another showcase, maybe the Game Awards. I've given up on them doing one of those XO shows because they haven't done that in years. So...
I miss those. But I did talk to leadership at Xbox about the direct, the direct showcases that they do, where they go into the studios and talk about games that are getting ready to release. And I said, the fans would really appreciate it if you guys did like a direct at the end of the year, beginning of the year, and showcase like a handful of games, and then turn around and do showcase in June. I said, we would really, really like that. And we feel like that cadence of a pretty big event in 6 months, and then 6 months later, the big event. I said, if you guys could do that, we would all really love that. And one of the people, I can't say who it was like, that sounds like a pretty good idea, Colt, kind of like that. So I think that's probably the cadence they want to do. And the studios and the fans, like, I love those directs where they're interviewing them in the studio. Those have turned out to be pretty successful. So Mag, you'd like to see that? 2 big reveals each year. I think it's pretty good. The XO thing was great. I don't know why they don't bring that back.
Yeah,
Gosh, those were so great.
Exciting. It was exciting and fun to watch. I think that they.
But do you like seeing them in the studio? You like that?
Yeah, I kind of like the fan thing. I mean, the fans were wild because you got the people right there. They're all going crazy.
Yeah,
remember the last
I know.
What was the last one in Mexico City or something? And it was wild.
I think they did one the next year in London.
Oh, they did one. Oh, right.
In 2019. Yeah, and then everything just fell apart. But
and then the world decided to crap the bed. But whatever, that's fine. They did what they did. But I enjoyed those shows. But if you're not going to do it, then obviously you're going to have to latch on other things like the Game Awards, things like that, and then just do a little reveal like that, and then save it for the next whatever you want to call it, showcase, E3, whatever the hell. I'm still going to call it E3 forever. So don't bother.
I will too. Yeah, it is E3. It was funny. The convention, the best part about there's lots of great things about FanFest, but since the convention wasn't there loaded with people, like that whole section of LA was not packed with people. So it was really, really great. You could actually go into a restaurant and sit down and eat. It was great. One last thing, People Can Fly, the team behind Outriders and the original people that made the excellent Bulletstorm, have partnered with Xbox to work on a new game. And no, it's not Gears. But if it's not a live service game, it actually has a chance of being really good, because live service games fall on their faces 9 times out of 10, it seems like.
Hey, well, that's it. It's one of those like spaghetti factors, right? It's like you throw everything at the wall, see which one sticks. And Ubisoft tried like 10, they failed. PlayStation announced like 11 or 12. you know that 99% of them are going to fail too, right? So it's just, they're trying it because everybody all you need is one Fortnite. You can make 25 of them. All you need is one Fortnite and you need one Apex Legends. That's it. And you could literally ride into the sunset with that one game. So it's just like a movie star. A movie star can make 20 crappy movies, but it takes just that one movie to shoot them off into the stratosphere of superstardom, right? Same
Chris
idea.
Pratt.
Well, Chris Pratt's been the guy.
No, he's been in a lot of really, really good movies.
Big movies.
The Jurassic Park movie was horrible, though.
Yeah, but you know what? It was a big trilogy that made billions.
Hey. Let me say one video game thing that we went and watched the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the third one, and I walked away going, "No, I won't." I walked away going, "Man, I like the video game even more than the movie." So please play Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game. I feel like that game captures the spirit of Guardians even better. But Meg, I don't know. It's been a crazy show. I'm glad we finally got to kind of break everything down and.
Yes.
I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to be good. Like there's a little bit of negativity for Avowed and people are scratching their heads and I don't blame them. But what we've heard from the devs makes me really excited. Fable looks phenomenal. I can't wait. We did not expect them to show gameplay. You and I talked on here 2 weeks ago before we left on our trip set. They have no business showing us gameplay. We just want to see some in-engine stuff. Show us what the game looks like. And they kind of went above and beyond that. Hellblade, what the heck are you thinking, right? And Forza, we'll see more about that. The games look great. And Starfield. I mean, Starfield, everyone is talking. As I swim, I'll swim. I'll swim like a Bethesda character. Everyone's talking about Starfield, and it's so good. Finally, as you know, I run an Xbox channel, an Xbox podcast. It's so nice to be here with you guys. You know, the almost 1,000 people are still here. We had about 1,000 here earlier, but all of you that were so excited about a big Xbox game that it's all we're talking about. It's finally.
Keep talking. I need 60 seconds.
You need 60 seconds? Okay. So now that Mag isn't here, I got to talk about several things I don't like about him. One thing, he smells fantastic. That's one thing he's got going. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's really good. I've been doing this stuff. I've been doing the podcast and the channel for quite a long time, and for Xbox to have like that promising game and the game comes out and it doesn't quite hit, or they've made such amazing stuff, but to have the game that everyone is talking about this year, because you've got juggernauts like, well, we could talk about Game of the Year. We might talk about Game of the Year nominations a little bit later in another show, but you've got Tears of the Kingdom, which more people seem to be talking about Starfield. Maybe that's who I follow. Like, chat, is that what you're seeing right now? That people are talking more about Diablo and Starfield than anything right now? And I mean, Zocker's in the chat. I've tried to play Diablo a bunch, and I'm just click. Nah, but people are loving Diablo. They're excited for Starfield. Maybe they're excited for Spider-Man 2. I don't know. That's just kind of how I'm feeling. It's just good to see that energy from Xbox fans where they have that something that you can really brag about. That's not Redfall. But yeah, let's see. We have Flippin's Mind says something about Phantom Liberty, which comes out a couple weeks after Starfield. I think 3 weeks or 2 weeks. For the Cyberpunk expansion looks completely awesome. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to play that because I've got 150 hours in Cyberpunk. But I'm going to be playing Starfield. Like, it's going to be hard to set that down. Sean the Bree says all three people are talking about Starfield, Diablo, and Tears of the Kingdom. So I don't know. It's been an amazing year for games, and we're just getting rolling. And I don't know. Let's see. Revive Saiyan says Fable, Starfield, and Avowed. Let me put up one quick poll and ask you how you guys are feeling about Avowed. I don't know how to ask this, but let me put here. We'll do three possible scenarios. How you feeling about Avowed? I mean, it's been such a great week. I've been so stressed. We got home Monday night late, and Tuesday morning I was just working hard, trying to get out 2 videos, and there's just an overflowing of stuff to talk about and cover, and everybody else has already had content going. I was trying not to feel left out, but I'm feeling great about Avowed. I'm feeling good, or I'm feeling IDK. I don't know. How about that? Ask your community. There you go. That's how we're feeling. Hargeet Johnny with the $2 super chat says, Game of the Year is a 2-horse race. Tears of the Kingdom and Starfield. There's 6 possible nominations. We'll save that for another show, but I think Starfield kind of has to probably edge out something like Hogwarts Legacy or Spider-Man 2. I think some of the other ones are given, like Diablo, Tears, maybe Resident Evil 4. I don't know. Meg, we'll talk about that another time. Why don't you tell everybody thanks for Colt for doing this show.
Yes.
And what you're doing the rest of the week.
Well, I'm going to be on Primetime Gaming this Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, we just finished this show today. Welcome back. It's great to be back. And listen, it's been a little quiet on the Western Front when it comes to making some videos and content right now because, it's funny. You go away for like 10 days or whatever, and you come back to work, and everybody's like, yeah, now you got to do like triple the work for like the next couple of weeks somehow like triple the work shows up in 10 days, and then you realize that nobody else actually does anything when you're gone. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. But hey, you know what? That's the cost of being the boss, right? So, that's how it goes. But anyways, I will obviously be on this show, and of course I'm on Primetime Gaming with Boom on Wednesday. And yes, you guys can catch me online gaming, doing whatever. On the Xbox side of things, you know where to find me. I am the Mag, of course, all capitals. On the Pony side of things, I am the Mag on the PS5, and that's where you can find me either 1,000 out of 1,000 in games, or I'm platinum in games. So that's what I'll be doing the next little while. But anyways. Been a great show. Been a great time. Colt, as a pleasure as always. Chat, you guys are amazing and hilarious as always. And I will see you guys all next week. Have a great night.
What an outro. Thank you so much. I'll be bouncing around to 9 different games as I try to find something that actually makes me happy right now. And yeah, that's so funny. Just a couple months ago, I was like, I don't have a backlog. And now I do. So yeah, I got to find something that'll keep me excited through the rest of the summer. But thanks everybody for being here. We appreciate it. Hit the like button on your way out. Tell Red Wolf in the chat that you love him. And we're going to get out of here. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.